Hey, everybody. I was actually over on Facebook. I was way behind. So I was trying to do a quick announcement over there to let folks know that I was going to be over here. And I usually don't time it down to the second like that. So thank you so much for already being here. And Amy, it is not the last session at all. I wanted to try and focus on things that are coming in that I think deserve spotlight. And because here's the thing, I love doing these, but I feel like if I do them and I'm doing them like on a Sunday when something isn't pressing, and then on Tuesday I get a great question, or there's something that comes up, as actually just happened this week, which is where the focus of today came from, then I want to be able to hit it. So, and I also want to make sure that I don't make too many that the folks that really need it the most are not able to find the stuff they need inside of it, if that makes sense. I'm actually going to find something to prop this up with. So it's absolutely not the last one. I'm just going to do them in a little bit of a different way. I'm just going to have them and spotlight or promote that I'm having them at certain times for certain purposes, if that makes sense. So it might piggyback on a question that just really hit me and I didn't even realize what a hole it was, or it might be something in relation to a conference, or if y'all, reach out to me and just say, I'm having issues with this, or I really am not seeing how this is working right. So it's not at all that this is the last one. It's that this is the last automated one, or automatic sequential one, I guess is the right way to say it. So it's going to be definitely coming back. As a matter of fact, who knows? It may be like, you might in 2 weeks get an alert that says, hey, there's a secret Sunday tonight. And that's kind of how I think it's going to be. Plus, this way, I don't have to always be on a Sunday at 5 o'clock secret. So it might be a Monday at 8 o'clock. So, and that is going to help too, because the other thing I was really worried about is if I miss a couple Sundays and then I start up more Sundays, then it gets hard to know when to come and when not to come. And if it's regular, that makes it even trickier. So it's not at all the end. It's just going to be different. We're just kind of like shifting to a different network, kind of like where we don't have a regular can series, if that makes sense. So I'm so thrilled that you learned so much. I'm beyond the moon with that, because that was really the whole focus. Is now that there's such a great interactive opportunity with YouTube, it's so different from the days when I recorded those vlogs way back, where I just, was talking on a topic. And I think this is much better because we're interacting. The thing that I worry about is folks coming on that don't know what secret stories are, or don't have any idea, maybe even how to get their bearings with how they're supposed to be, making sense of phonics and letters and sounds with their kids, would have a tough time sifting through our lives, because they're almost like, they're like a 1+ class almost. There's a lot of things we're throwing back and forth, both live and then in the chats. And there's so much equal value in both. And there's so many multi-dimensional perspectives that it's almost something I think that's better for folks after they've wrapped their head around playing with the secrets, to then jump into these and see the things that are getting batted about here. But what I don't want folks to do is, if we make a number of these ongoing and then they're new to it, come to this and get all confused, because we're talking as if we've been doing this for a really long time, and and they may feel overwhelmed. So hopefully this will I might even find a way to relabel it, like, your master's class or something that just gives them the idea that we are going through a whole lot of stuff very, very quickly, and we're going in 1,000 directions with it. So it's going to make a lot more sense to people who have their bearings. And while I know some of you who have joined us and been regular over the last few times are kind of new-ish, you've kind of gotten baptism by fire, which is nice, because you've really gotten your head spinning with things you never even realized you had questions about until they were hitting you. So for you, it might be good to digest or go back and take the piecemeal bits that are more clearly labeled and a little bit more on topic in the playlist on the YouTube channel for, I think, How to Teach Secrets 101, I think is what the playlist is called. I can't remember. I'll put a link to it in this video, along with another one that I'm actually going to talk about that I put a link to. So anyway, all of that to say, if you've been joining us, thank you. If you haven't joined us and it's your first time or your second or your third time, I appreciate you're trying so hard to hold on to the runaway train and keep up with everything that we're tossing around. And I think this will really be meaningful paired with some of those more basic pieces. And then from this point on, when we do these, what I'm going to do is focus it on something that's a little more specific, so that it really is tighter. And then also they'll have some of these where they're not at all specific. And it's exactly like what we did last week, which was so much fun, and where we can go in any direction we want and really talk about what you need or what you have seen or issues that you're going to, kind of want to banter about with. So you'll see a lot of these. It'll be like the store that went out of business that didn't really go out of business. And then you'll be like, well, I thought they were going out of business. And then there they are next week. It's going to be kind of like that, because I promise I'm going to be popping these out. It's just going to be with a little more intention and a little more flexibility with the day and the time. So all of that to say, I just want to welcome everybody that I do see in here. I am so glad that you guys are all here. Yeah, I know the time's a little early. Yeah, I agree. That was Christy. And what I will probably do is take a poll on the Secret Story site, asking everybody best day, best time. And then although it won't always be exactly that, at least I have some things to aim for, so that when there is something that pops up and we want to toss it out, we can hit everybody's best situation. Okay. And yeah, the shot in the arm. Good. That's, maybe that's what I'll call these Secret Story boosters, because they're kind of specific and yet also all over the place. And they go from bottom base level to way up high, been doing it forever. And let me tell you my tricks level. So they are kind of like I think a booster to kind of just give you that little extra oomph with what you already have your bearings with. And if you don't have your bearings, hopefully they're enough of a tease taste to get you to go back and start with the more basic stuff. And the other thing is, take note of the names in these chats, because these guys have much more specific experience than I do, because whereas I'm talking about a piece that you drop into your recipe, these are the cooks at every grade level with different populations and different student needs. And so they have fine-tuned the whole dish. And especially if they're in your state, and maybe we'll do that really quickly, is in the chats, if you could just put your state, even if you want to put your district in your state. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you're anonymous, that's fine. But if you want to put your district in your state, it might be really helpful too, because I think when everything we do is to be infused, integrated, and kind of boost everything else around it. Otherwise, we don't want to do it, because why would we want to do something else when we already have way more on our plate than we need? So because the secrets, and as a teacher, that's always my biggest focus, is to make sure teachers never feel like, oh, great, one more thing that I don't have enough time to do, and I'm going to have to add it to all the other things I do. Anytime you're teaching anything with the brain in mind and you're aligning with the brain system instead of against it, you will always throw your district in there too, by the way, if you can, district and state. Anytime you're teaching the way the brain learns, you should be knocking things off your plate. Because by default, when you're going against the brain, you're going to spin your wheels an extra 10 times per spin, because you're fighting all of the processes by which the brain learns. So the secrets, I've really tried to make sure sit underneath what you've already got on your plate to kind of wipe away a lot of it that isn't getting you where you need to go, because it's redundant, repetitious practice for stuff kids can just understand and then do. But having said that, different districts have to do a lot of different things, and different states even more. So if you've mastered this great way to do it with, your Gillingham that your district uses, or, with the Journeys reading series, or you're doing it with your Read First grant, or you're doing it, with the new legislation that just came down, there's a lot of different cooks in the kitchen where we all are. So it's always handy to see how someone plays with something in the pot that they're spinning around in. So I love that. If y'all just put your district and your state, that is great. And then what you can do is, after this broadcast, again, it's like a baking a pie. It takes about 10 minutes after this broadcast is over, or so it seems, for this darn chat to appear on the video. And the first couple of videos I made in this series, I didn't know that. So I think I deleted them somehow. But after, as of episode 3 and on, I've been really good, and I haven't deleted any. They're all there, and they're golden. And in about 10 to 15 minutes after this broadcast is over, you'll be able to see all of the people who are commenting here. And you're also welcome. And I know you don't want to put this on your on the YouTube channel, but you're also welcome to, I think while it's live, you can click on it and leave messages for people, because I believe, and I'm not sure, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that these are clickable links on YouTube, so that if you do want to be able to reach out to someone after the fact, you can. Otherwise, it might be I don't know if you can click directly on the names after the broadcast is over and get to their YouTube channel to leave a message. But if there's anybody you're just dying to connect with that you see on here and the broadcast ends and you can't connect with them, let me know, because a lot of the folks have been in contact with me. And by the way, that's another thing I love about this is I've gotten a lot of you on my radar that I either didn't know about where you were headed, what you were doing, some of the really cool things you were able to share now with me, and that you are, and you're sending me things in email. So that's been awesome. I actually am going to take that a step further for a few folks that I might be reaching out to this week. And some of you already are aware of all that involves, the kind of pulling people together. But there are a few that I've seen coming on each week that I just didn't really know and hadn't really been aware of some of the really neat things that saying the word really, sorry, some of the really innovative things that you've been doing. And as you've been in touch with me through email, messaging, or Facebook, you've just kind of touched on some things that I'd like to learn a little bit more about and try to connect you with other folks that are doing the same. So anyway, this has been awesome for that. So please never hesitate to share with me. 2 or 3 folks sent me things today and yesterday that I can't wait to dig into now that I'm finally home. So, okay. So we are going to get, oh good, I see you guys are already kind of figuring out where everybody is. We are going to go ahead and jump into this, and I'm going to tell you what lit my fire to do this. And I actually was scrambling, which is why I was a little late in getting the Facebook Live announcement out and getting it over here at the last minute. I uploaded a new playlist to the YouTube Live, and I've been late doing it. You all probably know I made an announcement a while ago about a person who is on Instagram. She's a young teacher. She's in Malaysia, and she's just this amazing kind of vessel of enthusiasm and excitement. But she's also in a situation that a lot of our young teachers are. And this is where I'll be general for those who are just joining us for the first time tonight and have no idea what I've been babbling about up to this point. So welcome. Her name's Jen Foster. She's a British teacher. And I talk a lot about the research that shows preparation for teachers, teacher preparedness to jump in, especially at the early grade levels, but I would argue just as much at upper grade levels, and make sense of this thing called the code. What teachers have, what teachers don't, what we're taught, what we're not. Letters and the sounds that individual letters make are not the building blocks of our language. It is it's phonemes and graphemes. It's the sounds letters make when they get together and how they're represented as patterns in text. Knowing the individual letters and sounds really gets us nowhere. Kids can't do anything with that, because as soon as they think an A says an A, they look at the word August on the calendar and see that it says or they see Austin's name. And don't even get me started on the Y. There's a whole other video on that, and I'm not going to go into that. But individual letters are too small to give or to power up what kids need to read and write. So teachers, unfortunately, though, in these classes, when we take our classes, and not just now with Jen, who's young, who's on this playlist that you'll see. And if you follow me on Instagram, you're familiar with her. But us who are old, we never got anything other than typically just letter sound stuff. So I think, especially with new teachers coming in, and with the brain science that's really emerging and is cut through a lot of the arguments, I'm noticing and I'm seeing things that I wanted to try to be able to make sense of, but do it in a way that young folks, like if most of you are my age, like your children, would understand. And the best way to get kids to listen is when other kids are talking. Even babies would rather watch babies on video than adults. You can capture a 6-month-old's attention if you're showing them a 6-month-old. I mean, I remember Teletubbies was the most popular TV show. My kids were mesmerized because it was a baby giggling and gurgling to babies. So not that Jen is a baby, she's an adult and she's amazing and she's brilliant, but she's a young teacher. So out of the mouth of babes, I think sometimes comes a great reset for us who have taught for a while. We've gotten a lot of compensation strategies like our kids do when they're working around things that either they don't have, they don't know, or they're not sure about how to make happen. And I thought I learned so much with a video clip that I finally got to watch from her. She's been sending me things, trying to put them together in a way that makes them make sense outside of Instagram, which is the world of, to me, 20-year-olds. Little snippets, fast little 15-second snippets. So we put these things together. They're in the playlist, and it's the third one on the playlist that I think is the most interesting. Now, the second one's interesting too, because it's Q&A. But the third one was her just doing what I said, jumping in. Just jumping into phonics instruction. Now, if you're new to this broadcast and you're here and you don't even know what a secret might be, this is also going to apply from a general phonics perspective, just how we do our phonics instruction and what not to do. Now, I'm not using Jen as an example of what not to do. Pretty much Jen is an example of everything to do in all of her typical daily instruction, because she brings lessons alive. She makes them real for kids. Nothing is abstract in her classroom. And you are just, even as an adult, mesmerized listening to her talk about Kleenex, let alone, something that kids actually are interested in. So in that regard, it's awesome. But watching when someone's told to just jump in and start doing things, it's interesting to see, with no perspective on what it is that you're looking for, what they do and where they go with it. So some of the things that she did, I never thought to really mention or address, because I think my perspective had gotten so not jaded, but there was, you talk for a long time, you see a lot of different things, but you don't always take it from a different perspective. So her perspective, I think, is a lot in line with where a lot of teachers are today, that are in the classroom, that are in, and I'm going to say in kindergarten, first or second grade, but I will say if you teach third, fourth, fifth, or even up to adult ed, if you've got kids who struggle with plowing through unfamiliar text, you are in the position to need to give them what they need. And just like early grade teachers aren't well prepared by the universities to handle everything that involves teaching the code, certainly upper grade teachers feel even less equipped, because that's not their thing. Their thing is what you do as a reader, what you do as a writer, the higher level tasks with text. So when they have a kid who can't make it across the bridge of reading to get to those higher level tasks, they are often just at a loss as to how, or if they should even spend time focusing on this when their whole focus, curriculum and testing, is on that. And yet if you don't get over the bridge, you can't teach the things and learn the things and then assess the things that are what is the third, the fifth, the seventh grade, assessment material. So all that to say, when you come into this game of teaching, no matter what grade level it is, there are certain things that are naturally instinctive to do. And then there are other things that your instincts don't seem to lead you in the right direction. And I think watching Jen, and I'm going to describe in a minute what it is she did that kind of sparked me wanting to do this. And then you'll be able to watch it after this and see what I'm talking about realistically there. When someone just jumps in and starts trying to teach, and if you instinctively are a good teacher, the first thing you try to do is you make things make sense. Now that presents quite a problem when you're teaching phonics, because good luck with that. And if you doubt it, ask yourself, why does K say K? Make sense of that for me. You can't, because K just does. It just is. And you just have to remember, K says K because that's the sound it makes. Well, why does a K have a stick that goes like this long ways and then two little catty-cornered sticks that come out of the side? Can you explain that to me? Is there any meaning behind that? And again, there isn't. It just is. It just does. You just have to remember. So abstract skills present a huge problem for their very best teachers, because abstract skills by default have no meaningful explanation. Now, there may be an academic explanation, but again, when we're looking at reading and we're looking at the primary audience we're giving it to, these are concrete thinkers. So abstract academic conversations about morphology or Latin roots, although that's very interesting, it's hard to explain to a child who's licking his neighbor, because he's more interested in licking his neighbor than of hearing us explain about silent letters and open and closed syllables and long and short and vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel, and things that are not terms that he immediately has knowledge or recognition of. And then, of course, all those abstract terms, should we work and teach those? And there are some amazing researchers and even practitioners in phonics that have such a wealth of knowledge, and they share them with the knowledge with teachers. And I can watch the teachers' wheels spinning as they're hearing all of this information about phonics and the ins and outs and ups and downs of all the rules and all the exceptions and the silent, all the things that are incredibly beneficial to know. But you can see that the instinctive teacher's wheels are spinning, thinking, how am I going to teach this to Susie? Oh my word, how in the world will this ever make sense to Johnny? Even my high kids probably would only give me like 5 minutes of conversation before this is going to be going like this. And what about the kids I'm actually most worried about? The kids who give me almost no attention span. So oftentimes the best folks for phonics knowledge are folks that work with kids in smaller groups or one-on-one. Speech pathologists are brilliant. but they're lucky enough to have kids in small groups or one-on-one. When you're the classroom teacher and you've got the maximum access to those kids, your time is incredibly valuable, but it's also spread across so many different students that half of your challenge is not just making something make sense. The other half is making it make sense in a way that's going to capture every single person's attention and pull them along on the ride with you so that we can all be at least in the same place for 5 seconds so that we can do whatever this task is. And the earlier the grade you teach, the harder that can be because of developmental readiness. If you teach in an upper grade, it can be hard for you too because you've got kids spread out across grade level years. So if you're a 4th grade teacher with kids that read at a 1st grade level and at a 7th grade level, good luck finding the common ground that you need to make an inroad into the lesson that you're trying to teach. Because what's boring the heck out of one kid is stressing the heck out of another one. So for any level that you're working with, teachers have a heck of a hard job. And I think that's why the code I love to play the most with in terms of mixing it in with the brain science. Because the brain science is going to give us what we don't have. It's going to give us a way to put meaning where there wouldn't be. And there is an Einstein quote that is, when the facts don't fit the theory, change the facts. So the facts are that there's no logical explanation that is meaningful to a concrete thinker about why letters do what they do. So we're going to change that. Now, that is what a secret is. That's what a secret does. So when I hold one up, and I'm going to be talking about this thing not to do, this what I'm going to call scooping out more. When I say what a secret is, just for those that are new, that's what a secret is. It's just a way to change the facts so that now there's a logical explanation for what otherwise there wouldn't be. And these explanations are going to be rooted in things kids already understand. So things that kids already know, like not to be sneaky when you're right at the front and everybody can see you, but to go where no one can see you if you're going to be sneaky. Like the letter Y, for example, who's never sneaky when he's at the beginning of a word and everyone can see him, but that he's always going to be sneaky when he's at the end of a word and doesn't think he can be seen. So things like that are where I'm headed with this. And I'm going to kind of talk in 2 directions for people who know secrets and don't. But here's what Jen did that demonstrated to me that when you just jump in, while secrets are easy and you can't mess them up because, again, they're just logical explanations for what would otherwise have none, there are ways to do it to get the most concentrated bang for the buck. You'll figure it out already after doing it one way and then the other, because instinctually, if you're a teacher, you're always assessing what's making sense and getting you farthest with the kids. But why go through trial and error if you don't have to? So what I noticed Jen doing, and I saw her do it once, and then when I saw it the second time, I thought it must be something that is part of the conditioning that we have as teachers to bring this in this way. So what she did was, in the first lesson that I noticed, and I'm going to say this is what not to do. Jen's going to kill me. She's just such an awesome teacher. I'm not worried that she'll think this is a problem, but this is what not to do, not just when you're telling a secret, because she did everything perfectly. This was like the only thing that I really wanted to hit. What not to do, not just when you're telling a secret, but when you're teaching a phonics skill. Now, this is going to really go against the grain for people who don't know what secrets are, because this is your number one thing that you would think you should do when you're teaching a phonics skill, that I'm going to say, don't do it. If you teach secrets, you're already going to get why you shouldn't do it. It's just probably something you never thought about before, but you're immediately going to say, oh crap, why did I do that? So, okay, so here's what it is. Now I'm going to actually show you, and then I'm going to let you guys try to tell me if you can figure out what it is that hit me. Okay, so I'm not even going to tell you. I'm just going to show you. And now imagine if you don't use secrets, that this is just a regular phonics lesson and that it's not, a secret that I'm holding up. Just imagine it's just the letters. She was doing a great lesson on, I think they were looking at the calendar, and she was trying to do what I said, which is just jump in. Just look for an opportunity when there is a word that kids can't make sense of using individual letter sounds alone, and use that opportunity to tell them there's a secret in that word. The reason you can't read that word is there's a secret in it. And a secret's what happens when letters get together and don't do what they should. It's a grown-up reading and writing secret. And then she's proceeded to tell them, and I think it was the calendar, and they were looking at the word day, or, Monday, or whatever the word, something with the word day in it. So she told them the secret about, and this is going to be backward probably in here, AY. She told them AY, A and Y are just too cool. And A and Y always stick up their thumbs and go, A. And then she let them do it. And then she showed them, which is awesome. She patterned out, look, guys, see, if you didn't know this was a, you'd think this word was yeah. But see, now you know there's a secret in that word. So it's a. And then she ran over and looked at some other words that she had on a poem or something. She's like, look, we can read this word now too, because we know about the AY secret. Look, A. And then she had the kids come up and they were using the AY pattern to do some light little writing, like shared writing activities where they had that word in them, but now they knew the secret, so they could actually put that spelling piece in there. And then I think there were a couple other lessons too, and it was a great a lesson that wasn't about the phonics skill, but was concentrated within their need to know because they're reading words where this secret or phonics pattern was. Now, can anybody tell me what they think the problem with that might be? Just what I've shown so far. Oh, and by the way, I'll tell you one more thing. On the video, she had, which I loved, because I'd said if you could put the picture up so they know what you're talking about, that'd be great. So she had this half showing, that half of the lesson, which makes sense because she was talking about the AY words that had an AY in them. Okay, so who thinks they know why or what? Yay, okay, Amy got it right off the bat. Yep, Jamie got it. Yep, didn't say. Actually, is it Trudy? My glasses aren't on. not just not saying them separately, never said the other one. Never gave the other one. Now, there's, for those who don't know the secrets or know phonics, because I just said a lot of us didn't get that in school. So secrets kind of take the place of, secrets are phonics. It's just kind of like an idiot's guide. And I know because I'm the idiot that put them all together. So it's, I mean, it covers every single thing, every nook and cranny that a phonics book requires, everything that's there, but put into that Einstein's logic of we need a need to know, kids. And it needs to be a need that we have that's already understood. So secrets just, they feed the part of learners' brains that are already developed, that are swimming with understanding, and they connect to that understanding that's already there. So having said that, this is the secret. But if you weren't teaching the secret, EYAY, if you were using a phonics manual, EYAY would appear as the A sound. Now, everybody that said do both, absolutely. Not just do both, show both, say both, pattern out both. Yes, your opening or your in was the fact that they needed to read the word day. And one of the little kids would go, you know, da-aya. And so that's a great opportunity for you to say, nope, but I know why you thought it was da-aya. It's because you don't know the grown-up secret that's in this word. So it's a great in, a great opening. But when that opening occurs, take it all the way. Scoop out the whole secret. Why take double time to have to then wait for the other half of what is really the same concept? This is just one concept. EY, AY are just too cool, and they always stick up their thumbs and go, A, and that's the sound they make. And then you can show the word day and the word Tuesday and the word Monday and the word play and all of those words. But in their back pocket, they already have been armed with what they need to read the word they. And maybe I said that by accident in the other setting of words. I didn't mean to. But they have that other piece of the tool. It's like a hammer. You know how one half of the hammer you pound the nail in with, but every now and then you got to turn the hammer around because you put the nail in wrong, and you got to pull it back out with that other handy little part that's on the hammer. I don't know what that part's called. So when you're teaching a kid, hey, this is a hammer. Isn't this cool? Look at this thing. Look what it can do. It works so much better than that soup can that you've been using to bang that nail into the wall. And so look what it can do. Now I have the hammer out. It's already in my hand. So I might as well go ahead and show what the hammer can do for the purpose we have right now, our immediate need. And I call that like the biggest hole in the boat. That's your need to know what's most needed first, and and that's what drives your whole instruction for secret stories. What's most needed first. And Jen did that perfectly. They needed that A sound, and she gave it to them. That was what's most needed first. But as long as I've got the hammer out, I might as well go ahead and show them what this other half of it that's really weird looking does. And then that way, when I put the hammer back where it lives, because you're always making sure that you have those posters up, accessible, and not even waiting until they've been introduced, because unlike phonics posters, these actually have something that is meaningful that kids can see and start to ponder. And that's what we want. We want them pondering. We want them begging us for them so they start telling us what they need instead of us telling them what they need. They know what they need to write the story they want to tell. They know what they need to read the words in the book they want to pick up, not us. We have to kind of, we have to kind of fake it at the beginning and give them the things we think that they need the most. And some are obvious, like vowels, sneaky Y. I mean, there are high leverage phonics skills that you just have to have right from the get-go, mommy E. But others, we may not know what they need. I can pretty much guess Austin's going to need AU, or he's going to think his name is Austin. So there's some things. Shelby might be confused if there's no E at the end of her name. So sneaky Y, I can use a good guess to figure that's going to come in handy for her if I'm going to want her to write her name on her paper. So some things we know, but other things, when you find the biggest hole in the boat, or you find what it is that the lesson is just begging to have be told or shared, when you point to the secret, make sure you give them, and I was trying to come up with a cute slogan like the secret, the whole secret, and nothing but the secret. But I didn't want to do that because it's not just nothing but the secret. The secret's the opposite of that. The secret's everything with the secret. So it's the secret, the whole secret, and everything you can do with the secret. See, now I just came up with a really good slogan, and like I should have put that on the call thing for the email that was blasted out to you, but I could not do it. But that's a great one though. The secret, the whole secret, and everything you can possibly do with the secret, because that is how you introduce it. So when you toss out this EY, and you use it for the immediate need, fixing the toilet, hanging the picture, whatever it was that this tool was needed for. And in Jen's case, it was the calendar and the word day or Tuesday or whatever it was. Then you're going to go ahead and pattern out all the other things you could do with it that are already slightly familiar to the kids, like somebody's name. Maybe you have a little girl's name and her name is, goodness, what would somebody's name be that would have the A sound in it? Trey. Maybe you have a tray in your classroom. So you can look at the, maybe on the lunch menu, there's going to be, again, I don't know right now what would have an A sound in it for lunch, but, pattern out its purpose or its use with things that kids already maybe see, but they didn't know that was there. And then make sure that you're referencing it where it lives so they can get back to it without you. Now, having said that, there was one person in the chat and I noticed they said that. And they said this, and I didn't catch it in time because it was a different. So whoever said this, good for you. Because the other thing they said was you have to say it. You have to say the whole thing. And saying it's really important because when you're giving secrets simultaneously to those individual letters being gotten, which are the Better Alphabet song, remember, I always say, a T is no more important than a TH. So I want kids to know this as fast as I want them to know I don't, and if anything, this is faster. They take this and run. That day, they go home with it. They own it. T is going to go through muscle memory. That's going to have to take the Better Alphabet song. It takes 2 weeks to 2 months. So because you might be tossing out a secret that they don't know, and this is what's helpful for dyslexic kids, they don't see a secret in the same way that the brain sees a sequential letter pattern in a particular order that then moves from its original sound to an alternative one. They don't process it that way because the secrets aren't going through the higher level processing center. They're going through the social emotional backdoor. So all they know is, ewa, ewa, are too cool. They go, hey. It's like saying Jimmy and Johnny are just too cool. So they always go, hey. It's an entity. This is an entity. This is something that has an auditory path to capture. Ewa, ewa. They may not yet know what an E and a Y and an A and a Y are, or that they need to come together in order to make a sound different from their regular sound because they may not even know what their regular sound is. This is why this is so beautiful with dyslexic learners, because it completely bypasses every area that is laden with minefields when we're teaching in this linear traditional front door way, which is that you learn the letters first. And then once you know the letters, then we start to put them together. And then over the course of 3 to 4 grade level years, you will be given all of the pieces of the code that you need in order to write about the pet mouse that you're trying to write about in kindergarten, but you don't have the ow sound. So again, if you don't have anything to read and write with, what are you getting out of all the hours that you're spending reading and writing across the day, starting in kinder? Probably not much. You're getting exposure, but not experience. So fast tracking the code is a given. And I talk about that in every episode. I'm not going to harp on it now, but taking advantage of the auditory route, taking advantage of being able to say and have them hear you say, EY, AY are just too cool. Or OUOW, you play really rough and someone always gets hurt and goes, ow. But notice who's flying overhead? That is superhero O. And he is their all-time favorite superhero ever. And if he ever flies by, OW will stop dead in their tracks, whatever they're doing, and go, oh. And that's so important because kids need a default for words like blow, flow, slow. The word isn't necessarily going to be how or cow. And if it's not, they need another trick right up their sleeve to attack it and try it with. So just like you want to flesh out or scoop out the secret with this, you'll want to scoop out the secret with this. And the auditory, saying it is half of the battle for kids, meaning some kids are visual. They're just going to study this. They're going to see it. When they go to write and read their words, they're going to go look for it on the wall. You're going to see that visual track or channel that they're taking. Other kids, you are going to see practically moving in their seats as they gesture this. And the best one to give an example of this one is this. And I know I use a lot of these examples over and over, and I apologize that I do that. It's basically about the proximity of my posters that I have to me. But the best one to explain it is the one that, of course, I can't find right now. But it's that, I'm going to find it though, because I'm going to need it. It's that for the E-R-I-R-U-R. I would have boys kick me under my guided reading table when they would be reading a word that had that pattern in it, even though they didn't need to use the secret anymore because they already knew how to read the word. It was like a reflex response that was stuck because what's used together is fused together in the brain. And that's the moral of this story as far as the auditory importance. What's used together is fused together in the brain. So if you have a gesture, ow, for the OUOW. If you have, you can hear it, you can see it, you can feel it, you can do it. All those things are possible paths home for kids who don't find their way home easily. A lot of kids can take any or all of those routes and grab what they need to read and to write words. But some kids need a stronger auditory path or a more connected visual access, or they may have to be involved with the experience. Some boys can't sit still to save their lives. So the only reason that, they're giving you the time of day is they're getting to go as they slide across the floor, and they might as well do something as they slide across the floor. So why not that? Now, the end result of that is they have the sound. They've got that E-R-I-R-U-R sound, and it's connected with the patterns that make it, which means it's a tool to read and write words. But what gave them the connection was their ability to move, to put themselves into that skill so that the skill wasn't abstract and meaningless. It had meaning to them. And you don't want to presume to know what root kids need, so you want to give them all. Scoop out the whole secret. So say it. And when I say it, I mean say the whole thing. Ewa, ewa are just too cool. So they always take up their phones and go, eh. You want to show it. And when I say show it, I mean the whole thing, because it's not just the AY they need. They're going to need the EY. And you're not going to want to have to spend yet another lesson reteaching what you've already explained as a concept with meaning. You've just disconnected it and cut off its power source and caused yourself to have to do it now again, which also, by the way, runs the risk of kids getting confused and thinks this is another secret, which if it's something different and you've introduced it at a different time, maybe it's because it's supposed to do something different or there's something up with it. So keep it simple, keep it quick, keep it cohesive, and just make sure you see it, you show it, you feel it, you do it, and then go ahead and play with it. Show them, even if the word you're cracking with this key, the key that you're using this to open, or the door, that the word that you're trying to unlock with this particular secret, go ahead and find some doors that you can actually use this secret to unlock too. Just so kids get the whole enchilada when it comes to the secret. And if you're not using secrets, the whole enchilada when it comes to the phonics skill. And I touched on that last week when I said that I saw in a forum somebody talking about how to teach, and it was actually the OUOW, and they were saying that you should first teach the OU sound. Once learners have that deep in their gut and can read and write with it, then you should teach the OW sound. Once they have that way to say ow deep in their gut and they can read and write with it, then you can teach the other sound OW can make, which is O. Now, my question is, how are they going to get that deep in their gut and read and write with it if they don't know the other sounds? Not just the other sounds of O, W, and OU, but what about all the other sounds? Are you just going to read a list of words over and over and over and over again and get those deep in your gut? That's the thing that's mind-boggling to me. And that's a whole nother kind of step back, which is why we have to fast track access to the code, because it just doesn't make sense to divvy it out in little spoonfuls and then expect kids to be able to master or have deep in the gut ownership of any reading and writing. You don't have anything to read and write with. So how can you wait for OU to be mastered if you don't know OW? And not to mention OW, what about EW? What about AW? What about TH? What about SH? What about CH? What about mommy E? What about babysitter vowels? How will they become a reader that is strong with an OW sound if they can't read? So and I used the analogy last week about the number 4 and said, you really can't be the master of number 4 and everything it represents if you don't know about 3 and 5. Because 3 and 5 are what gives you the perspective to really kind of swallow down what number 4 does. You can add, you can subtract, you can see how things are sequenced. You could even do some grouping. That's how you really get deep in the gut ownership of a 4, is when you understand how it fits in relation to 3 and 5. And I would argue the same thing with a letter T or a letter B or the EY or any other little piece of the code. The way you own that is by reading and writing with it. And the way you do that is to own more than just one piece of the code. So all of that to say, scoop out the whole secret. Scoop out the whole secret. And I don't even know what you guys are saying in the chat. You might be like, she's crazy, or I would never do that, because I don't know how many of you in here do or don't use secrets. And I know if you don't use the secret, what I'm telling you is going to sound really overwhelming. And I totally get it. And this is why I love what Jen did, because her way probably seems smarter based on what she knows is right for teachers, those teacher instincts I was talking about. Teachers want to make things make sense. So we would never want to overwhelm kids, especially if we are looking at their blank faces as we're in Phonics book, page 66, and we're telling them about the AY sound, or like those teachers in that Facebook chat, I'm telling them about the OU sound and they seem slightly confused. So I certainly am not going to go ahead now and unload on them the OW and the alternative sound. That would be bad teaching. And I get that. I totally get why it would feel like that. And it would be, and I would agree with you, which is why we don't do it traditionally when you're going through the front door. Because when you're going through the front door, the only way that you have to solidify those abstract skills is repetitious use and practice. And often in isolation, because kids can't read enough to really let reading teach them those sounds, because they may not have a whole slew of other sounds yet, because they're not on your scope and sequence. They're on the next year's or the next year's. So you're in a tough boat, and that's the boat I call where you can't breathe underwater. You need the scuba tank, and the scuba tank is heavy and it stinks and you have to lug it around. You got to keep coming up for air. It takes, 3 to 4 times to come up for air before you can get through the whole lake or river or ocean or whatever. And that's what you have to do when you can't breathe underwater. But if you use the brain science, if you go through the back door, if you tap into what kids already understand, which is, again, how you feel when you get hurt, that if somebody that you were like hero worshiping flew overhead, of course you're going to stop dead in your tracks, whatever you're doing, go, oh. So right now I'm talking about the OUOW. If you understand how it feels when you're stuck in a line and how this is the GH, the different sounds of GH, that's depending on where it is in a word. Well, if you use the brain science and you bring it back to what kids already understand, kids do have different feelings based on where they are in a line. When they're at the front of a line, they're thrilled. They're like, this is great. This is so good. We're going to get to go first and get in before anybody else gets to go. This is great. Good. And guess what? That's what GH says at the beginning of a line. When you're at the end of the line, you're really far away and you're mad. You're like, man, we're so far. It's going to take us forever to get up there to the front. And that's the sound they make at the end. Like enough, tough, rough. When GH is in the middle, they are too afraid to speak at all because they're surrounded by so many other letters that they don't want to be a bother and have everybody overhear their conversation. So they are just silent. They don't say anything. Like in the word sight, night, fright, ate. Now, before somebody jumps in and says, well, what would you say about the word though? Or what about the word through? I love those questions. I love that, because here's how it gets fun. And here is how this is different from a phonics book on page 66, which would tell you that is an exception. The word though is an exception. The reason it's an exception, in case you missed part of this, is that GH is supposed to say at the end. And I just said that when I told you my little secret. And it didn't. In the word though, it's saying absolutely nothing. But if these are the only 3 things on the face of the earth that GH can do, and you know them because you understand what's in the box, is it really that hard to figure out what else GH might be doing if he's not going like he should? You only have 2 other options. So if you try either one of them will get you what you need, which is for the word though, or the word through. So that's the kind of critical thinking playground that starts to open up when kids can think out of the box using what's in the box to do it with. If they know what's in the box, thinking outside of the box with text, which is definitely needing to happen, isn't hard because there's only three possible things. The real issue is what happens when they don't know what's in the box. A secret's everything in the box for a phonics pattern. And sometimes there's more than one together, which is why there aren't the same number of secrets as there might be phonics pieces or the graphemes. It's put together in a different way than your 44 symbols of sound, because if I can collapse things together, I did, as a most likely, next most likely, because it's based on behavior. And I think before I got slightly off track, that was going to be my point, which was because it's based on behavior, you can give them the whole picture. You want to give them the whole picture because behavior is like numbers. It's best understood in relation to other behavior. You don't know that someone is behaving badly unless you know what behaving good looks like. So the fact that you, in a phonics lesson that is purely phonics, purely abstract skills, no secrets, that you would break it apart into pieces and divvy it out like Jen did makes perfect sense. Why your instincts would tell you to do that, because it's going to be a hard sell. You're going to be doing it for a long time, and a lot of kids are going to take a lot of repetition, and they still may not have it even delivered in pieces. And of course, you can't practice it very much in reading and writing because they don't have the other pieces to then put it to use and use it to read and to write across the day. So it's a tough road you're going to have. If it's behavior makes much more sense when they have the whole picture. If I have a sub who tells me my kid was if they say Johnny was horrible yesterday, he was just terrible, he was absolutely awful. Well, if I know Johnny's actually a pretty great student, I need some context there. I need more information in order to make sense of this behavior that just is isolated. So if I can have that context, I can, in relation to that, to what she tells me also happened, then I can start to understand and actually own what it is she's telling me and make sense of it. So what I'm trying to say here is, and I don't know if I'm doing it real well, if you chop this up, and this is a great example for one to say never to chop it up, it doesn't make any sense to explain or to connect why kids might be mad when they're at the end of a line if you don't reference the fact that these guys are thrilled, they're tickled pink because they're at the front. So it makes most sense in relation to the entire secret, the entire concept. And I also like to use the example of Cinderella. You can't appreciate how evil the stepmother is unless you other than juxtaposing it to the lovely, kind sweetness of Cinderella. So one becomes more clear and easier to own the meaning and understanding of by virtue of it in relation to the other piece. And just like the numbers, that need to be seen together in order to be understood, used, and owned deep in the gut, letters, patterns, phonics, symbols can't typically be given in that way. But with the brain science, they can be. And when meaning is your ticket in and social and emotional understanding is what you're connecting with, kids can handle the whole story. Because at the end of the day, that's all it is. It's just a story. It's not a whole phonics pattern. It's just a story. And you're just tossing it out. And that is what Jen did. She jumped in and she just tossed it out. But her teacher instincts had her toss it out and then hold some back. And so that's the biggest point I wanted to make is don't toss it out and hold some back. Toss it all out. Don't just read the first part of Cinderella and then tell them that they can't handle the second part until tomorrow, because that wouldn't make any sense to us. So see this. And even if you don't teach with secrets, if you just use regular phonics, I would still implore you to give them, you haven't hurt them, to give them the visual of what all of those symbols that can say A are. So that even if you're just holding up an AYEY, placard of some sort, give them that whole piece, because at least with that, they can make a little more sense of the text that they're going to be seeing, and that will only help to cement in the pieces each individually that you're trying to hit. It certainly is a lot easier when you can breathe underwater to not have to keep coming up for the scuba tanks. And again, breathing underwater, I just mean when you are giving them a lot of information, but it's not information, it's just what they already understand, and you're connecting it in that way, then you don't feel as funny. It doesn't seem as strange to give them the whole story. It actually seems to make sense because that's how we tell stories. We tell the whole story. So it's a harder thing to wrap your head around, I think, if you don't know what secrets are, because you would instinctually probably do what Jen did and want to hold parts of it back. But when it's a secret, it did strike me as funny to see her literally trying to hide, the other part of the card so that she didn't show it to them. And it was just funny to me. And then again, that second piece of cutting off that auditory root, which is saying it, hearing them, having them hear you say the sounds that make the symbol, or the symbols that make the sound, and the sound that the symbols make. Just having that other root home to capture that information for kids who are auditory learners. And the only other thing I will say about Jen, and then I'm going to hit the chats, is this is actually the other one she did. So in the clip that you're going to watch, if you look at the description here and you click on the playlist, the first one's us introducing ourselves and talking about how we got together. The second one is her first questions and answers, that if she could ask me anything before she started, what would it be? And she asked, and I answered. And then the third one, which is the one I'm really talking about tonight, is her clips of her doing what she's doing in her classroom, just letting it go, throwing it out. And then that's interspersed or spliced in with me talking about what I saw and how awesome certain things were, and how she could squeeze more bang for the buck out of other things like what I'm talking about, which is give them tell the whole story. So this was the other one that she did. And when she did this one, I believe let's see, which one, I think she gave, I take that back. I'm sorry. I take that back. This one, she did the whole thing. She didn't do the O. So actually that wasn't the whole thing. She did both sounds. And I think it's because in the Q&A, I said something about doing both sounds. So she did, but she didn't think to do this one, probably because she was following the sound. And the only thing that they needed for the words they were cracking were the ow sounds. So she didn't think to give them the O sound. But again, you don't want to have to waste your breath and say it twice and turn what is one concept into two. You don't want an extra step in your dance. You want less steps in the dance. So knock it all out, kill all those birds with one stone, and then it's there for you, ready to go and be used when you need it for any purpose. And meanwhile, it's cemented in a see it, say it, do it, feel it, intact story or secret. The one that I did want to tell you that she did was this one. And it was Superhero A and Short and Lazy A. And I don't have the A one. So I'm just going to show you I'm going to show you the U one. She introduced one of the superhero vowels and his short and lazy sound. Now, before I go on, who can tell me what might be my concern with that? I'm going to say it again. She introduced one of the superhero vowels and his short and lazy sound. Okay. Anybody want to give me an idea of what they think might be what hit me with that? One of the superhero vowels and his short and lazy sounds. And it was a short E. Okay. I see lots of good chat, but I'm just curious if anybody knows the answer. You need the long sound. She did. It was A. She gave them the long and the short A sound. Intro all the vowels at the same time. Yep. Yeah. Because it's not about the vowel. And again, I know from a teacher instinct end, that doesn't make any sense. Vowels are hard. They take forever for kids to learn. They have poor auditory processing. They have very poor auditory discrimination. They don't hear those differences that are very minute. Most of them have poor articulation capability. So even if they hear those fine differences between lip-tongue position, they don't always have the ability to work their muscles in such a way to get the So are you insane, Katie? Why would you say she should give them all at the same time? Because with the secrets, as well as with regular phonics instruction, it's the same concept. Now, with the secrets, you don't have to worry about the sounds. These aren't your worst enemy. The vowels are actually your best friends, because we're not going to hit the minefields with the weak spots. That's the beauty of the brain science again. If you know your brain is a chess opponent, you know them, you know their rap, you know what their likely moves are going to be. So why would you fall into their traps? Why would you go in a path that's going to lead you directly over the minefields that are their weakest spots as learners, early grade learners or upper grade ELL learners who are struggling with vowels? Typically, those would be the only audiences. Why are you going to hit their weakest spots? You wouldn't. If you know what their weakest spots are and you know how to avoid triggering them. So with the secrets, the vowels actually are very simple to toss out all at once, because you're going to give them a dramatic action that's just going to land them in the sound. No lip position, no tongue position. We're not even talking about that. If they are engaged in that dramatic action, that feeling, the sound just pops out of their mouth. And then we attach that to, that's the short E. So for example, just to show you what I mean, this is you. He is, of course, a superhero. And by the way, this is one concept. There are superheroes in our classroom. They live here. And this is a huge secret. And it's just probably the biggest one there is. But I think you should know it because you live here too. You're in this classroom. There are 5 superheroes in our classroom. They are the superhero vowels. They have a power that no other letter in the alphabet has. They can say their name. And I realize that that is just not exciting or impressive to us as humans because we think you should be able to fly or breathe underwater. But if you're a letter who never gets to do anything but go ka or ba, then this would be really cool. So they are the envy of every other letter. And because of that, they have to disguise themselves. So just like Clark Kent or Batman have these other disguises that they pretend that they're not really superheroes, so do the vowels. So U likes to pretend. Her disguise is she'll sit in the back of the class and pretend she's not paying attention. And she'll just sit there and she'll act like she doesn't have any idea what the teacher's talking about. And every time the teacher calls on her, she'll go, and that's her short and lazy sound. And when she makes it, no one suspects that she's actually superhero U. Because what superhero wouldn't pay attention in class? Now, I'm not hitting lip position. I'm not talking about tongue position. I'm just someone who doesn't know the answer to a question. Kids can get there. And then all you have to do is connect the dots and say, and bingo, there's your short U sound. So each of the vowels has this trigger that you can give that's, again, social emotional, coming from something they already own. Everything that is secret stories is no new learning. The new learning is what's cheating. We're attaching the new learning to what kids already deeply understand. That's how it works so fast. It's not magic. I mean, that's how it works so fast because they're not learning something new. They're using something old to do something with all this stuff that is new that they shouldn't even know, let alone have absolute use of to transfer to reading and writing. So there's a quote, miracles become common and consistent when you teach with the brain and mind. It looks like a miracle when you can toss out something that's really complicated and a little 4-year-old can just take it and give it right back to you. And then you can see it in their, let's say, reading or their writing. It's not a miracle. It's just when you're teaching with the way the brain learns, you get this immediate hold on things that normally you fight to the death to achieve. So it's just par for the course. If you could breathe underwater, you don't need a scuba tank. It's not a miracle that you don't need a scuba tank. It's just a fact. If you could breathe underwater, why would you want one? So a lot of the things that you think you have to do when you can't breathe underwater that are correct to do when you can't breathe underwater no longer are a problem when you can. So one of those things would be holding off the vowels and trying to teach them one at a time. With the secrets and even just with regular phonics, the concept, the high leverage phonics skill concept of a vowel is it has power other letters don't have. In the secret story world, that power is it can say its name or it will wear its short and lazy disguise. In the phonics world, it is that it can make its long sound or it can make its short sound. And it also comes together with other letters to make sounds that we in the secret world would call secret. But all of that to say it's one concept. And under this one concept comes all 5 of those vowels. So teach the concept so that kids have their bearings. It's like telling the story of Cinderella, but not giving the setting. You know, if we don't know that this is a house where her stepmother is in charge because her mother passed away and her father who loves her isn't aware of how she's being treated or, you know, blah, or die. I think he died too, right? I can't remember. But anyway, if you don't have the context, then you can't really grasp what the bits and pieces are that are coming your way, or make sense of those to then infer or make meaning of the rest of the story. So you want to give the context of the fact that there are these things called vowels. And again, in secret speak, I already told you how I would do that. In phonics speak, you can do it however you like, but go ahead and give them that information. Now with the secrets, you don't have to worry about overwhelming them because it's just a story. You're not a waitress sticking it on their plate and making them give it back to you through an assessment. It's a buffet. You're putting it out alongside other things that you're going to constantly be referencing, modeling, talking about, and using to crack words, but you're letting them decide when they're ready to put their peanut butter down and start playing with it and eating it. In the meantime, it's just a story. So you're not torturing them with short vowel, lip position, tongue position instruction on a daily basis, which I understand why in a traditional situation you would not want to do. But at least lay out, if you don't use the secrets, at least lay out the foundation of what this vowel, what does it mean to be a vowel? What are these things called vowels? And even if it falls on deaf ears as you're trying to work your way through lip position and tongue position and and they're going and you're going no, and they're going and you're playing that game. If you want to play that game and do it that way, that's fine. But at least while you're kind of doing that, make sure they know why they're doing what they're doing, so they have a way to know how to do it and what purpose it's for. If you're doing it with the secrets, it's just a story. So kids could listen to stories forever and they'll tell you back the story. You're not worried about them understanding what you're saying. It's a matter of waiting for the application. And the application will happen by virtue of you modeling it on a constant basis with other kids who already are plugging it in and getting, oh, look, huh, huh. Now, following right up against that. So Jen, what I wanted her to do is toss out every single, tell them about the vowels and then tell them who those 5 superhero vowels are. And when you tell them who those 5 superhero vowels are, let them know what each of their disguises look like. Now, once you've done that, it's probably time for lunch because that's probably the longest secret story lesson there is, are the superhero vowels secret, because there's 5 of them. And you got to go through the, the ah and the eh and the eh and the ah and the So by the time you've done all that, they probably are ready for lunch, need a nice break, which means after lunch is the perfect time to address what should be the next need to know question, which is, well, how do I know if they're long or short? Didn't you say they could either say their name or they could be short and lazy? Like you said, you could go you or you could go so how do I know? Because see, teacher, here's a word and I see the you in there, but so what do I do? Try both? Am I going to just walk around it forever just trying both long and short sounds? I mean, heck, what if the word has 2 vowels in it? That's 4 different tries I have to make. I'll be on a wild vowel goose chase. So no, we don't want them to do that, which is why Mommy E, if we're thinking about where they would need, what this is for, why am I teaching it? What am I doing with it? And where do I want them to have, what do I want them to do with it? And what do they need to do that with? Mommy E. Mommy E is the trigger point that's going to let them know whether a vowel's long or short. And since there isn't always a pretty little E at the end of a word, babysitter vowels too. And what I would tell Jen is for the future, when she talks about Mommy E, which I would love to see scooped out with the superhero vowels with maybe a nice lunch or something in between. But when she talks about Mommy E, babysitters, vowels, same thing. Babysitter vowels, in case you're new to the secrets, are just what Mommy deals when Mommy can't take it anymore. She just puts another vowel in charge. So just like when Mommy's at the end of the word and she tells any vowel, you say your name, and by darn it, he will because she's close enough to get a hold of him. If Mommy's not there, it just means she put a babysitter in charge. So boys and girls, if you see any vowel that's 1 letter away from another vowel, it's the babysitter. It's going to do just what Mom would if she were there. It's going to tell the vowel, you say your name. So a word like motor, or a word like hibernate, or a word like making. Words kids are going to see, and that kids are going to need to have best betting odds for Las Vegas to roll up their sleeves and try to attack. When they see a vowel, they need to know, which way do I go? So I would say, like Mommy and babysitters, just from a common sense end of knowing how to breathe underwater and that this is something you can toss out with ease. And it is just a story. Go ahead and give them that concept in total, because you're going to, let's play it the other way. You just teach Mommy E and that's it. And then maybe 2 months later, you toss out babysitter vowels. But the babysitter vowel lesson is going to feel almost exactly like your Mommy E lesson when you explain that it's going to tell the vowel that's 1 letter away to say his name. And when it's not there, they don't have to. It's the same concept. When I am a kid and I want to do something sneaky, the first thing I do is I look to see if my teacher's standing right over my shoulder. Because if she is, I'm not going to do it. But if I turn to see if my teacher's there and she's not there and she's all the way outside the classroom in the hallway, well, now's my perfect opportunity to smack Susie over the head. So whether I'm looking to see if it's my teacher or my mom, because maybe my mom's standing over my shoulder, maybe it isn't my teacher, maybe it's my mom, I'm going to make sure the coast is clear across the board. I don't want the principal. I don't want my mom. I don't want the teacher. I don't want anybody standing behind me when I'm ready to smack Susie over the head. So it's the same concept for kids. So teach it, make it easy, give them one concept and then pattern out those ways it can look. Because I think you'll see that not only is it easier, it makes more sense. Now, I will say this is something different if you teach phonics and not secret stories. You really can't. There really is. That's like me telling you to stay underwater for a day. You can't do that if you don't breathe underwater. If you use secret stories, you can stay under for a day because you breathe underwater. You don't need a tank. So there is no tank. But if you're using a tank, your tank will not last for 5 hours or past 5 hours. So you need to surface to get the other tank. So you cannot do this if you don't teach secrets. What I mean is you can't pair up the silent E with with what the phonics version of babysitters would be, which would be vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel, open syllable, closed syllable, dictates whether the vowel is long or short. Those 2 concepts are separated by over a year on a scope and sequence. Mommy E, or the equivalent of silent E, is usually taught in 1st grade, which is, by the way, ridiculously way too late, because what are you supposed to do in the meantime with vowels? But even worse, the equivalent of babysitters, which is the what I just said, vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel, open syllable, closed syllable, dictates whether the vowel's long or short. That's held off till 2nd grade, end of year. I don't even know how to say at what I think about that. Because how do you wait to read the word making or motor or any word that doesn't have an E at the end of it? How do you gain knowledge and experience with text if every word that has that pattern is held off from you with a scope and sequence, thinking you don't need it until second grade? But I get why, which is you can't stay underwater for 2 days if you can't breathe. So it is complex if it's taught through the front door as a concept that is purely abstract and phonemic based, because it requires a lot of abstract terms to be explained. Like I said, vowel, consonant, vowel, open syllable, closed syllable, long and short. I actually think that is a great explanation to give kids once they already are reading the words. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, Katie, I like that explanation. I don't want to dumb it down. I think kids need to have a very high level understanding of what exactly it is that our language is presenting them with. I agree completely with you. Totally with you. Just don't make that the bar that they have to jump over in order to read the darn word. If you have a way to give them access to text years before they're supposed to have the tool they need to do it, why would we not? All of this is only taught to read and write. Nobody gives a hoot about phonics. Even phonics people don't care about phonics. They only care about phonics because it is the key to kids cracking the code. But the whole reason that we teach it is to read with it, to write with it. If we didn't need phonics to read and write, we would not be doing this. So if that's the case, I don't think there'd be a better situation than to reflect with learners that vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel conversation. That would be an amazing, enlightening conversation to have with kids who already were privy to how to read those words. Because up until that point, maybe they were thinking of them as the babysitter vowels or mommy E. So how neat is it to know there's a grown-up term for that? And what this really is it's syllabic. It's syllabic division that then dictates vowel sounds and the way letters act in words. It's a great discussion to have with kids who can reflect and have something to connect it with. It's a terrible discussion to subject a 5-year-old to, which is why we don't. And that's why it sits on second grade scope and sequence. But in the real world, if they're going to get comfortable, like that teacher said in the Facebook forum, with what the OU says before you teach them the OW, well, you got to have more than just the OU if you're going to read enough to get comfortable with the OU. So that's why they need it. Vowels are in every word. The trigger for the vowels either going to be the mommy E or the babysitter, or it's going to actually be part of a secret. But all of that requires fast tracking access to the code. And then I love the academic concepts. I love the morphology studies. I love listening to people that know so much more than I do about the roots of our language and why certain things are the way they are from a perspective of language history. It's fascinating, but that isn't the food that 5-year-olds who are licking their arm are going to make sense of to do what the task at hand is, which is to maximize the value of reading and writing across the day. If you're going to spend 4 hours reading and writing across the instructional day cumulatively, we want them to take a ton out of that opportunity and engaging with text. We don't want them to just get the bare surface level of you read to me and I kind of paid attention. Or I held my pencil and then I just copied a lot of the sight words that are on the wall. That isn't maximum instructional density. So the more they bring to the table, the more value they take away out of everything that we're doing. So the earlier, the sooner, the easier. And it's all about play. So no pushing, no developmental memorizing, no sit in your seat and flashing cards. It is all about play, storytelling, music, understanding of the way kids interact, behavior. It's all rooted in what they already have, what's already theirs. And the new stuff that is skills to them is just behavior. And it sits in the same place as who got in trouble, who can't have a peanut, and who always says bad words. Those are the tracks that they use to recall these high level or high leverage phonic sounds and symbols. So I'm not on my soapbox anymore, but I'm going to hit the chats. And I'm also going to tell you, I'm going to give you, because I don't want you to have to wait. So I'm going to make sure I tell you what it is that I'm going to put a link for that's free here so that everybody that's here can download that. If you want to be the winner of the free kit that is going to be today as well, that you have to stay in all the way through until the end for, but I don't want to make others have to do that if they just want the link for what you can download. So I'm going to give that one now. Now, as soon as I just say that this was the focus of today, though, was scooping out the whole concept, scooping out the whole secret, and trying not to let our desire to protect kids from too much actually making it more difficult for them to understand as a whole what we're talking about. So just keeping that in mind, I recognize it's much easier to do that if you're dealing with stories instead of skills. But even if you're dealing with skills, I think understanding why you're doing what you're doing and all the things that go with it. If it's one concept, keep it one concept, and then let them see how those concepts live under that same umbrella. Okay, and the download that I was going to do is the because I think I did the other half of it before, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, and if I am, I will flip it. I believe that I did the Better Alphabet mini mats the last time that I did, like way back when I did a download link. The mini mats are the kid version of what the Better Alphabet is that hangs downward, and so I was going to do the Better Alphabet chart today. If I did it the other way around, tell me. Okay, good. Yes, I did. That's what I thought. I was going to say, if I did it the other way, I'll do the mini mats today. But the Better Alphabet chart that is on TPT is the one that I'm going to go ahead and make free. I'm going to do it for an hour. So after this session, you will see immediately in the description, I will add the link. I haven't added it yet. Okay. Well, okay. So you still don't have to sit through the rest of this when I answer questions in the chat, but you can just know that within about 20 minutes or 15 minutes, we'll probably be done in 10 or 15 minutes, to look at the description and you'll see the link. And at that time, I will make it free, and it will stay free until, I'm going to say, like 7:30. So it's like 6:10 now. So 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. It will stay free. And I can never make these work after the fact, by the way, because these files are gigantic and there's so many graphics. This one in particular has 2 sets of graphics. So, and like 1,000 different pages. So they're too big to just email. So do make sure that you grab it then when it's in the download window. So you'll see the link in the description. And right now I just want to hit the chat, see if there were any things that were specific that you asked me about, because I don't want to ignore all the awesome things that you are saying and asking. And then we'll do the secret story giveaway right after that. Okay, I see so many good, so many awesome folks that are here regularly, and I see some new names, which is great. Yeah, okay, definitely. And I don't mean to just scroll through these, but I'm going to try not to suck up your whole evening here. I love that I see some new names here. We're going to learn about what not to do, correct? Making sure I clicked on the correct thing. Yeah. Yes, what not to do. So I guess I should have phrased it that way. Instead of saying scoop out the whole concept or the whole lesson, don't piecemeal the story. Don't give part of what can make the sound. Don't give part of what can what the letters are. If it's a secret, give them the whole secret. And if it's a secret that only gets powered up by another secret, go ahead and give them both. For example, that EYAY that y'all heard me say, if you don't use the secrets, that probably was bad for me to do that, because you don't know about sneaky Y. And sneaky Y is the core piece. Sneaky Y is what kids are going to need first and foremost and constantly. It too, sadly, sits on 2nd grade scope and sequence, and kids need it day 1 of kindergarten. I'm not going to get on my sneaky Y soapbox, because I know everybody that comes every week's like, oh God, here she goes with the Y. Now she's going to talk for another 5 minutes. I'm not going to do that, because you can see in the YouTube videos, there are like sneaky Y, me on my soapbox talking about sneaky Y. And I think they're even labeled something about sneaky Y, but that would be something that is a core secret. And of course, if I just told them what to expect Y to do when he's sneaky, EYAY is going to go perfectly with that. If I don't let that other shoe drop, which is that EYAY, then really what I told them about sneaky Y is not very meaningful, because they're not going to know what's going on when Y doesn't do what the sneaky Y secret says it's supposed to. So the EYAY just pairs perfectly with it, because as soon as you've taught one, they really need the other one. And that was the point I was making about the superhero vowels. As soon as they know that vowels can do 2 different things, they really need to know, so which one is it they're going to do? And how am I supposed to know when I'm reading words, which I'm assuming is why you're teaching me this, right? So if you're teaching them, if you're giving me vowels and expecting me to use them to read and write words, you better give me the way to plug them in and know whether they're going to be long or short, or else I'm going to be reading a lot of these words really, really wrong. So it's not a guessing game. There's an easy win here. They just need the other piece of the pie to do it. So it is always ironic to step back and say, so then isn't it interesting that a reading series would tell us to introduce the vowels for a year earlier, 1 year before the reading series tells us to introduce silent E? That's just strange, if you think about it, just realistically think about it. So reading series are great playgrounds for kids to read and write, and it's their playground to explore everything that reading has to offer. Secret Stories is not that. Secret Stories is not a program, but Secret Stories are what gives them the tools to read and write with. so they can really milk everything out of that instruction that you're doing every single day, and all of that reading and writing at home and at school and at the grocery store and in the road signs and everywhere else they see text. So so what not to do is to not give part of the story of Cinderella without the whole story of Cinderella. Don't just tell part of the story. The whole secret, or the secret, the whole secret, and everything that the secret goes to. So always make sure that you flesh out everything that they need that goes with that. I love that Forrest Gump line, and that's all I know about that. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Like, give them the whole thing that they need to know about that as a whole, as a picture. So hopefully I know that makes sense to my secret story folks. I just want to make sure that I wasn't misleading for those that aren't using secrets, that they have a message too that makes sense in their corner of the non-secret story world to see a difference in what they're doing with their kids. Okay, I see lots of great stuff about where folks are from, which is perfect. Individual letters and sounds not being enough. And I see Lauren made a comment about that, and it's probably to something that is in the past. It says, yes, they should, Renee. I love the point Katie made about individual letters and sounds not being enough. I have to say that not Pam Snow, I was reading somebody else. They made that comment this morning, and I wrote it down because I thought that's something that I say in a long way. And she said it much quicker, about the building blocks of reading and writing are not the letters, the individual letters. They're the phonemes and the graphemes. They're the sounds that letters make, and the patterns, the symbols that the letters together that we use to write them. The graphemes are the phonemes. The graphemes are what represents the phonemes that we hear in speech. So it's the oi, it's the ow, it's the ing. It's all of the different sounds that are what the building blocks are for reading and writing. The individual letters are too small to really have a big role to play in what really makes up reading and writing. Okay. I had a non-reader parent see them on a wall and ask about them. He said he wouldn't have learned to read without these. Oh, I love that. I love actually the way kids perceive the secrets. There was a teacher, I think Renee McNulty had posted some of her kids, some ELL guys especially, who were just learning to read, and their faces look like they're going to pop. I mean, we forget them sometimes, I think, and lose sight, especially of readers who are painfully aware of what they know they don't know, compared to kids who just seem to pick things up easily. When they can do something that seemed worlds away from what they ever thought they could do, and they can do it sooner than other kids, meaning in classes maybe that aren't using the secrets, or maybe even older siblings, their pride is just palpable. I mean, you can see how shell-shocked they are that they have this power as a reader. So I'm thrilled that he said that. And I think sometimes you can talk to your kids and really hear some things that you take for granted about how excited they are and how grateful they are for the things that you're giving them that are really making things make sense. So I love those clips that Renee had sent. The letter X can just be spelled using X, and the letter Q can be spelled, qua. Who's with me? Yeah. Yes. And that, I'm not sure what that was in reference. Oh, I have a proposition. Let's permanently remove. Okay. Helps to read the proposition first. See, the whole thing makes more sense. Let's remove the letters C, X, and Q from the alphabet. We already have these letters that make the sounds, but C makes. Yes, that is true. But then we would have issues with knowing whether vowels are long in words like cyclone versus, cycle. We could definitely do that to simplify things. I don't know if people will go along with us on that, but I'm trying to think what other rule. Well, we'd have a problem with no, we wouldn't. Well, you'd have a problem going ch, ch, ch. If we took away the C, we'd have to come up with another way to get that. And then of course the k sound that the CH can make, but then we have a K that would take care of that. So that would be a really interesting game to play though, like a board game where you could figure out what things you could cut versus build versus add on. So give some letters more responsibility, other letters less responsibility, and then see at the end how many you were able to just delete altogether and what you're left with, and then what their powers are. That would be like the geekiest game ever, but it would help you really kind of think through that. Looking for a phonics program for my team, hoping to learn more about secret stories. Well, and again, it's not a phonics program, but it would do what a phonics program would do, which is basically give you everything you need to make short work of your reading series, meaning to dig into it and enjoy it and play with it and celebrate all those reading and writing opportunities that are part of your daily experiences with text that are usually dictated by the reading series that you have. And whether you love it or whether you don't love your reading series, I think you'll love it a lot more if you use it as a playground. using it for all the things that it offers. Don't look at it as the introducer of the code, because you'll be very disappointed, because it is by default. And I actually put on the website with the help of a friend, Lorinda Tangen, who had to collect all these reading series scopes and sequences for every major reading series that there is, and then look at what the time frame is, the waiting game that kids have to play to get these different sounds, these different patterns, these different pieces of the code. And Dick Allington, in a keynote that we do, says, and he always says it, and it's my lead-in to where I go, 3 to 4 years is too long to make learners wait for the whole code. So if your reading series, if you like your reading series or you don't, probably one of the reasons that you might not like it is if you're looking for it to give your kids access to what they need to read the reading series. If you have another way to give them the ability to read and write what's in your reading series, then you might really start liking your reading series, because there's probably a lot of really cool activities you don't get to because you're spending so much time just trying to teach them the skills, and you're doing the repetitious use and practice that you have to do when you don't have meaning to give for the skill. So it's preventing you from taking and diving deep into your reading series and taking all those good pieces out of it. So when you say phonics program, while I would say Secret Stories isn't a program, it's tools for you to make sense of what doesn't. It will act as one in that it will power up your reading and writing across the day. And then hopefully you'll have, something to apply that power to. If not a reading series, maybe you use trade books, which would be, neat as well. The problem with that is just, making sure that they've got more successes than failures as they're gaining their ground with the code. Probably a longer answer than poor Megan needed to hear, but she didn't use EY. Okay, that's part of what you guys were telling me. Introduce both together, both need to be shown. No EY or telling the whole secret. Yep, that see it, say it, do it, feel it. Just making sure they have all those roots home so kids can find what they need to get there when you're not around. While I was teaching first, AI and AY were also introduced together. That is a really good point. Thank you for mentioning that. I don't do that. And I'll tell you why. And I'm not saying it's wrong. As a matter of fact, if you're teaching phonics and you're not teaching secret stories, I would probably say that's smart. The reason I don't do it with secret stories is secret stories are organized by behavior. So behavior means I tell the sub things like, okay, watch out for Johnny, because Johnny does like to kiss girls. And he's not supposed to sit next to a girl because of that. And he also sometimes says inappropriate things. Those are two things that I can attribute to Johnny's behavior. I wouldn't say, okay, come here, Mrs. Sub. As far as the behavior of who likes to cuss and say inexperienced things to girls, that would be Johnny, Jimmy, and Susan. Or not Susan, but I don't take the behavior and lump the kids into it. I take the kid and then I can predict or identify the behaviors. So because of that, the secrets are organized differently so that the AI that you're talking about, which you're perfectly right, makes the A sound as well. But that secret, the umbrella that concept lives under is two vowels go a walking and the first one does the talking and he always says his name. Now, AI, EE, EA, OA, all the vowels that go a walking are on that picture. Now, before anybody reams me for this, because I got a really nasty Facebook comment like 2 years ago because somebody posted some kids walking together and said, oh, we did our two vowels going to walk in. And they said something like, well, apparently you don't know anything about phonics, because if you did, you'd know most of the time when vowels get together, the first one's not doing the talking. And that's perspective too, because I wasn't saying as a blanket statement when two vowels go walk and the first one does the talking. That's just one secret. AU is a secret. AW is a secret. AUAW that are in love and go, ah. AY, EY are secret. There's secrets that have lots of, OO is a secret. OI, OY is a secret. So two vowels come together a lot. And yes, the first one doesn't always do the talking, but that's not that. Is its own secret. That is its own secret. And the ones that do come together where the first one does the talking are on that poster. I don't have it handy right now, but the ones that when they come together, that actually does work are identified on that poster. The problem was thrown out in a vacuum on Facebook with a couple cute kids dressed like vowels doing the walking, gave that gentleman the wrong perspective of, I guess, him thinking I was making a blanket statement and that, that was like the big overwhelming overlying phonics rule about two vowels. And it wasn't. So in a vacuum, I saw why he would think that's misleading, but he didn't know there were secrets to account for all of those other things. But because the AI falls under a different secret, it is taught as a behavior that fits that secret, which are the two vowels go walking and the first one does a dog and it always says his name. So because of that, I would not feel the need to pull it into the EY/AY lesson. Now, if I were in third grade or second grade and I were doing a spelling test, and on my spelling test or my words their way or any other curriculum that I was using, if it mixed or gave me a mixed bag of secrets, but they all said the A sound, like if they gave me the, let's say the mommy E, that's another way A could say A, and the word Kate, it's because mommy E's right there at the end. If they gave me the word day, if I had the word bait, if I had to, because of my curriculum, hit this kind of combined grouping of words, then yeah, absolutely. I would toss out all those secrets that are needed to make sense of what that's doing. But I wouldn't, in like the context Jen was in, where she's looking at the calendar, talking about the word ya and explaining why it isn't ya and giving them what is the second grade skill, which is the EY/AY. I wouldn't then feel the need to add a whole separate story into that mix. It would kind of be like if I'm telling the story of Cinderella, and then I segue into how Snow White was a girl too, and she was pretty, and she was about the same age, and she needed a prince also, but her problem was she had these 7 dwarfs living with her. You can start to see how things would get confusing, because inherently Snow White and Cinderella aren't, the combination of the two isn't my focus. Not when the focus is on the story and the behavior. If you take the secret stories out of the equation and you're just a phonics teacher teaching a phonics lesson, sure, absolutely. I would see no problem with that at all, and it would probably make sense to do that. So I love that you mentioned that. That is a great point. So thank you so much for doing that. And I will say I did a lesson. You can find it here. I will put the link. I always say this and then I forget, but I will put the link to it. It was a lesson. There was a little guy, a group of kids. I think the superintendent may have even been there. And this was back in my class. This was a while ago. And he had asked them, and they were writing about what they did on the playground. And it was I think actually this was taken out to show how this works. So and I'll find it, but it was called Choices, I think. And it was where he's trying to write the word playground. And by darn it, this little kid went through every possible option that there was to get the A sound. And they were all right. But the last one he came to was the EY/AY. He actually started with EY. So he said EY first. He wrote PLEYGR. And then I think he said like OWND. And so first we fixed the ow. We came up with the other way to get the ow sound, and he fixed that easy. That was OU. And I think he missed the end too. So it was like playground at first because it was kindergarten. So then we hit the PLEY, and I said innocently, can you tell me another way to get the A sound? And I thought he'd just flip right over to the AY. No. He instead put AI. And I said, oh, okay. Can you tell me that secret? And he said, yeah, 2 guys go walking. The person who was talking to always says his name. And I said, okay. Well, can you give me another way to get the A sound? And I was hoping by me using my voice and my gestures going A, he just jumped right to the AY, but for whatever reason, he didn't. Actually, I take that back. He turned and started to do something. I don't know what it was, but another little girl yelled out from the audience, Mommy E! And I thought, oh, crap. Because that's another great way to get the A sound, but we're getting farther and farther off track here. So before I could address it, which was good because I didn't know exactly what I was going to say yet, another little boy piped up and he said, you can't use Mommy E because if he puts a Mommy E right there after the A, that would turn it back into 2 vowels going and walking again, and AE don't walk together. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's perfect. That's perfect. He's right. Because at this point now the little guy had the PLA and he was trying to put something next to it. And if he put the Mommy E there, it wouldn't be Mommy E. It would have been 2 vowels going and walking. And AE were not up there on the 2 vowels going and walking secret poster. So then there was nothing left but the other sound for A, and finally he got it. But it was a fascinating lesson, and it, in that situation, I had no choice but to go through all of those. I wasn't teaching them, they already knew them, but we had to work our way through, and that's how spelling works. You got a lot of choices as a speller. As a reader, it's a lot simpler. But it was the same idea that you're expressing. So that's such a great observation to make. I love the colors for the new posters. Thank you, Tanya. Oh, and by the way, if you're thinking, I saw somebody on here say something about 2 vowels go walk, and that EA doesn't always have the vowel, because I always say, and the first one says his name. EA, there is a little kind of default off to the side for EA on the 2 vowels going to walk in poster, because EA can also be eh. So there's a little old lady going eh, because that's the secret for this, for superhero E, for those of you that know the secret. So that way there's an explanation when it didn't do what it should. Everything with the secret is about, but if not, then this. So they have that next tool up their sleeve to try if what's supposed to happen doesn't. So the 2 vowels go walking poster has all the ones that go walking, and the first one always says his name, but the one that doesn't always do that is that EA, and there's that little sidebar default for kids to grab and use when they need to. Amy, you don't have to teach them all the time. Just tell a story. Yes, 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 yes. I don't even know what that was in response to, but that's true. We're not teaching. These are secrets. So we're not saying go to your kindergarten class and teach them these phonics skills. Only if you're using the secrets can you stay underwater, meaning can you get away with giving them access to all these things. You could never, if you don't have the ability to breathe underwater, just go under and stay, you'll drown. And if you try to go into your classroom and have no way to make sense of abstract phonics skills and just start dumping them on kids, they'll drown. So there are different, we're talking about two different sets of situations here. But with the secrets, it's a buffet. It's not a waitress situation. You're tossing something out. You're letting it come out in the form of a secret. You're modeling its use because you will have constant opportunities to model it because you're working with text all day. And letters come together and do what they're not supposed to in text all day long. So pick the ones you need to do the things you want. And that modeling of you going to that buffet to grab the key you need to open those doors will just inspire the kids to see those connections even more. And it happens, it's one of those things that's so much easier to do than to talk about because it actually happens so fast and it's so easy that it's almost hard to wrap your head around just thinking about it. But when you do it, it's just without you, it takes off. And again, it's just the brain science. It just makes sense because you're letting the brain do what it naturally wants to do, and with the code, what it naturally needs to have to do it with. I would be the chief house go walking. Okay, I'm just going to frame that line that Amy said. You don't have to teach, just tell the story. Yeah. One of their favorite things is to notice secrets in their own name. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the first thing they'll notice in Lucy Calkins' phonics workshop. That's one of the things that she uses as an intro is to get kids to notice their own names. Just like babies like to watch babies, kids love their names. They love their friends' names. The things that they are connected to are the first things they're going to start noticing the secrets in. I always demonstrate words that use all patterns shown on the poster along with the using the story and examples from the teacher's manual. Then I often ask if they know another word with these patterns. Very good. That sounds so formal. I do that too, but I don't make it sound that smart. Yeah, but that's really good. And that's kind of tell the story, tell the whole story, and then use that story everywhere. Show everywhere you need it. Like use it to pattern it out so that after you tell the story and you tell the whole story, then show them all the places they can use that story or that secret. So that's exactly what Pam, I think, is saying there. Please help me with the word could. That had me stumped last week. The word could, would, should. There are very few words that have to go to jail. That is one I would put in jail. There are some little tricks you can use, but personally, I don't know that they make it as clear as I think I would just want it to be. So could, would, should are great words to go to jail. Thanks to Tara Settle, a lot of the other high frequency one syllable words that you might think should go to jail that are not decodable, like was, want, some, love, of, no longer have to go to jail because you can use the thinking vowel or the head bop trick for that. So if you don't know what that is, that's one more thing I'm going to say. I'm going to put a link to, and then I'm to remember. But anytime I say something, if you jot down the word, there's a search on the website, the secretstories.com website. If you go to the blog and in the search box, type in any of the words that you hear me say that are something you want to know more about, and you can pull it up. So that's head bop or thinking vowels. And I will try to attach that link again. If I don't, Tara can maybe shoot it in here or someone. But that is that knocks out almost everything that was left in jail. So could, would, should are just biggies. And there's a few other ones. And I think in that post, I go through words that we think of that are jail words. And then we talk about why they aren't or why they are. There's another one. If you type in, I think if you type in steroids, it might come up, which is terrible. But I think it's called kindergarten reading and writing on steroids or something like that. And if you type the word steroids in, it'll pop up. But I love what she did. This was a teacher who, I think it's Kajersti Johnson. She took you through what a little ELL guy was trying to read and telling you why he had no problem with it. And then you see a video of him doing it, which is amazing. And he had just finished his letters and sounds. the week before. So he took all the way till October to get his individual letters and sounds. But along the way, he was hearing secrets. So he could play with babysitter vowels, mommy E. He knew the ooh, he knew the ow, he knew all these other ones that he didn't start using until he had enough letters, individual letters, for the two things to intermesh. And then he started seeing in words that this is actually the sound. These are actually the sounds. So every time he knocks out a word and the viewer is thinking, how did he know that word? How did he know that word? She's explaining what secret he used to figure it out. Or she's letting him explain it in some of the video clips, because she says, how did you know that? How did you know to say that sound? How did you know this was going to be, how did you know to say I? How did you know to get this? So it's a great, I think, a great video to kind of show what words are readable, what words aren't. If they are, how? And if they aren't, what are they and what are we left with? Okay. And again, you don't want an overcrowded prison system. So don't be picky. Like, don't put have in jail just because it doesn't do what it should. It's perfectly figure outable. Like the word though that I mentioned for OU, remember or for GH. And I said, that the GH is supposed to go and it didn't. Don't put it in jail, because unless you're upper grade and it's purely for spelling purposes. But if it's all about just being able to read it and you're in an early grade, there's only 3 possible things those 2 letters can say. So if there's only 3 possible sounds and kids understand and know what those 3 sounds are, then they can easily figure out another one to try. So jail is where you have to put time and space aside in the brain to have a rote memorization picture of it. And it takes a long time to create those pictures, especially for learners who are slower to learn, who don't have as much repetitious practice. Anything you put there, you better make sure they can use on a frequent basis, or it's subject to loss, because it's all going to be kept or lost based on use it or lose it. It's a very precarious area. So high frequency words won't present much of a problem once kids are reading, because as you read, they're high frequency, so they're going to get the most use. But until kids are reading, it's nice to have tricks like the one that I mentioned that Tara came up with, that head bop thinking vowel trick, because if they can just keep reading things, then they can keep having, they get the use it time they need to really let things solidify. And ultimately, then everything becomes sight vocabulary, meaning every word that you see, we just read by sight because we are readers. So at the end of the day, that's obviously how we want kids to be perceiving the text as well. Okay. Yeah. And again, overcrowded prison system, just make sure you don't stick everything in its brother in jail if it's figure outable. And I do say one quick thing about this. I always tell teachers, if you didn't know everything that was in the box, and for those that came in late, you may have no idea what I'm holding up here, but if you do not know everything that's in this box and you had to try to read the word though, how could you possibly know to say nothing for those letters? How would you know if GH didn't make the sound like you thought it was supposed to, and you didn't know all the other things it could do? How would you think to try no sound at all? You wouldn't. Who's going to say, oh, I know what I'll try next. I'll try nothing and see if that works. It would be random. But if you know these are the 3 things that GH can do, these are everything GH can do in a word, then when it doesn't do what it should, it's just not that hard to figure out, well, what about the other 2? Let me try one of those. Just like kids, kids don't always do what they're supposed to do, but it's really not hard if you know the kid to figure out what the next most likely behavior is that he's likely to do. So that's a really just another reason why everything in the box, not just part of what's in the box. You need everything in the box so that you can think outside of it, and text demands that learners think outside of it. That's why I always say best betting odds for Las Vegas, because no phonics rule is going to give you the cut and dry sound that letters will make. It's going to give you the best betting odds for Las Vegas. But from there, you need to be able to think your way through, well, what else could it be? What else can I try? And to do that, you need everything in the box so you can think outside of it. If you know the animal, you can predict the behavior, but you really have to know the animal. That's why I love secrets that give you the whole picture, because when kids get the whole picture, thinking outside of the box is easy, because if it didn't do this, then maybe it's doing this or this. It's got to be one of these 3 things. So it's not that hard to figure out, well, just try one of the other ones. But if I don't have a clue what it could do, because I only knew this sound for it, then it's a crapshoot as to what I should try next. Okay, I worked through all the other sounds O and U might make. Good. I have written OO beside OU and tell both sounds. Okay, and I'm not sure in what context that is, but OO beside OU. Maybe you meant OW beside OU. I'm not sure. That was Pam. I use the OU as in you and could to fit if you stretch it out. Okay, I do the OO sound with OU. U is a sight word for kinder. Now there is a trick for words like you or words that are similar. I mean, you've got 3 letters in the word you, Y-O-U. And granted, the O isn't doing anything, but if you're a doctor and you've got 3 symptoms and 3 different ways you could deal with something based on those 3 symptoms, and you tried one way and it didn't work, you've only got 2 other ways you could fiddle based on the other 2 symptoms that you see. So in the word Y-O-U, you've got the Y, an O, and a U. So I would always encourage kids, just for fun, just as a critical thinking exercise, and then we could decide if it's too much work and just better to memorize it and put it in jail. But as a critical thinking exercise, you've only got 2 sounds. You've got the O and you've got the U in the word you. So you could try, yow first. That doesn't work. So now just try to make the O sound, yo. Well, that kind of works, but it's a weird word. Teacher's not going to say yo. So now we've got you. Oh, maybe the word's you. Did that make sense in the sentence? So if it's a short word and one of the letters is actually making a sound that it could, then we like to try that. What else could it be? What else can we try? Just to see what things can we have enough power over that we don't have to relegate to jail versus what is so time consuming that it's just easier to stick it in jail. So I kind of like to play those games because they're a nice critical thinking, fun muscle stretching opportunity. But at the end of the day, reading is the goal of the game. So if they're going to take too much time, let them memorize it. But it's still nice to know that if they really needed to buckle down and figure it out, they've got what it takes to do it. And in a word like you, I think it's worth buckling down and, and playing with that because you've only got, again, 3 letters and 2 of them are actually making sounds they can make. So if you just, try it the way it's supposed to be, if it doesn't work, then just try one letter and then try the other one. And if one of those 2 work, bingo, you got it. And I think that's the case a lot of times with words like you, where one letter, like the same thing with the word though. Same exact things happening. We figured out the GH isn't doing what it should because it should say, and it isn't. So it's saying nothing. That wasn't a hard leap. But then you got the OU. It should be ow. Well, it's not. So let's just try the sound for each of those separately and see if either one of those work. And it did. The O, though, we got it. So it's not like the OU went A or it went E. That would really be terrible. But it just, one of the letters just didn't make a sound and the other one just did something it could do anyway. So it's figure outable by a doctor's perspective. Now, again, do you want to go through that hassle if you're just trying to read this word? Maybe not. Maybe you want to just memorize it as a sight word. But again, it's always a fun critical thinking exercise to have power over text and give kids that feeling that they know how to handle text, even text they've never laid eyes on before, which is the bulk of all text they're going to experience, especially struggling readers at the upper grades. They love feeling like they're getting their leg up over, text and that the text isn't this looming enemy. So they really enjoy seeing that they can work through what text is throwing at them more than the earlier grade kids who take it for granted and just think it's fun. Kids who have always felt powerless over text really kind of get reinvigorated, I guess, as they see things starting to make sense enough that they can actually make sense of things that don't make sense, and yet they can figure out kind of a way. At least that was my experience when I was working with 4th and 5th and pull out for, struggling kids. Okay, one thing I haven't seen yet in the program is teaching them how to know when to use which option for writing. And that's a whole vlog on itself. And it's actually one of the ones that I thought about waiting to do the finale until I had hit it. But then I thought better that I just spotlight it by itself as a whole. Reading is the best teacher. Getting kids reading is one of the fastest way to fine tune their writing. So kids who know that ERR play really rough and somebody always gets hurt, ERR go driving and they're terrible drivers and they go, very well might spell bird B-U-R-D or B-I-R-D in kindergarten. But it doesn't take a reader many frequent tries of reading. And actually the research that I read was if you have 100 IQ, it takes you approximately 3 times of reading a word, like bird, for example, a simple word with a particular vowel pattern in it, or an R-controlled vowel pattern. If you can read the word bird, it takes you approximately 3 times of actually coming across and reading that word to know visually which one looks right, E-R, I-R, or U-R. If you cannot read the word bird and you just are seeing the word bird in various places as a non-reader, then there is no formula as to how many times you have to see it to know which one looks right for spelling. But if you are a reader and you can go, duh, and you don't go, duh. I mean, if you can actually read the word, then 100 IQ, which is dead average, it takes approximately 3 times reading the word, not even in a row. I think the time frame that they'd used was over the course of a week. 3 times actually reading the word to have a visual picture of what looks correct, the ER, the IR, the UR, because they have their options already in their head anyway, because they know the secret. So if you look at the best thing I can say for now, until we actually do a blog on this, is if you look at the website, look under the writing tab, there's a tab, it says writing. Look at that and compare the kindergarten writing to the first grade writing. And you can even compare some of the same names of kids. They're different kids, different states from 2 different classes. And there are some pull-out kids in there. You'll see high, medium, and low, everything in between, good, bad, ugly. But just look at the spelling and look at the fine-tuning of the spelling and look at the errors you see in kinder versus in first. You'll see plenty of errors across both boards, but you won't see the same errors. You won't see things like you won't see they spelled T-H-A-Y in first grade, but you will see it in kindergarten, because they're just going the A and they're building from whole cloth. So if they put the AY or the EY, either one's fine for them in kindergarten until by the end of the year, most of them had figured out, oh, it's the EY. And how did they figure that out? Because they'd been reading, because they could read. And like the guy said, who it seems to bring him up every single vlog, I can't turn it off. I see secrets everywhere and I just keep reading them. That's what happens. When you can read, you do read. You can't not read. And the more you read, the more you notice and see. So it's a very fast compounding learning curve, I guess. So, and there are some things you can do to play with it and to kind of support it a little bit more, especially if you're in the upper grades. I do like Words Their Way for that purpose, for, upper grade, end of second, third, fourth, especially if you're working backward, plugging holes. You don't have a lot of time for that experience to take over and fine tune the spelling. So that is a vlog of its own. And I do promise I'll do it, but that's a really good question, Tanya. So thank you for asking that. And you can get more on what I'm saying in that writing section on the Secret Stories website, because it also gives some links to some blog posts that go into a little bit more about what I'm talking about. And also on YouTube, there's one of the videos, if you go to the channel for Katie Garner and type in writing. And at one of the national conferences, I hit that pretty hard, and you'll see a lot of pieces there too. I think you can get that same video again on the website with those writing samples if you go there as well. I often ad lib and say they have to put their binoculars on, hold their hands up. Yeah, it's always, hold their hands up to go, ooh, ooh. Yep. Absolutely. And gestures, again, see it, say it, do it, feel it. So you want to offer all those roots home so that every kid has access to something that's going to work for him. Kids are all different. We can teach with the brain in mind, but as much as the brain is a multiprocessor, different kids have different strengths with how well they process in different ways. So we're covered, we're safe. We've got our bases covered if we're offering multiple roots simultaneously throughout our instruction. That's that multisensory learning. Multiple modalities are engaged, and what isn't strong is less likely going to be an issue if what is strong is happening simultaneously. So they can see it, say it, do it, feel it. And the best example of that is a little guy. I think I said this before. He didn't speak English real well. And whenever he would retell this was the second week of school and it was in kinder, and he would say, yeah, you look at that car. Now, the words weren't there, and he obviously wouldn't have gotten it if it were just told as a, boys and girls, ER, IR, and UR, go driving in cars. He wasn't getting the auditory. Well, he got the auditory piece, but not the meaning piece. He understood the universal aspect of what the sound was and why, because he was dramatizing it with vigor. And he played the auditory tape like a song that he didn't know the words to. But the fact that the auditory sounds were there is the key. He needed that root to have almost like a playback to get from the symbol to the sound. The meaning wasn't there yet by virtue of the English words, but the universal understanding and then the auditory track was. And the visual was just a way to retrieve it for him, to give him a quick hook. So, he had one channel that was just not there, but he had others that were ready to go, and giving him all simultaneously keeps him at the table. So he's not, not on board with the rest of us who maybe don't have those deficits. Tanya thinks, she says, knowing which one looks right while writing just comes with experience and more text. Yeah, it definitely does. I know that doesn't give a lot of comfort to upper grade teachers who don't feel like their kids have the time to wait to see how words look. And I know that's one of the reasons I like Words Their Way for that purpose, to kind of hit the other side of the visual to fine tune that spelling faster. But at the end of the day, if you've got a kid at the upper grades who needs a secret in order to read, just be thrilled that he can actually get what he needs to start reading, because reading is the best teacher. You just have to be able to read first. So, reading isn't through osmosis. Reading to them is not, reading to them, first of all, is critical, but it is not how they learn to read. Reading to them is just the most amazing gift you can give to your own kids, because it sets everything up and primes what they need to become lifelong readers. But teaching a kid to read means they have to have tools to read and write with. And if they have what they need to read, reading is by far a better teacher than we could ever be, because it gives them the opportunity, as all experience does, to do it, to actually be in the driver's seat. And so that, yeah, that is typically, that is an ideal way to fine tune your spelling. Okay, and I'm going to kind of go down fast so I don't keep you. It looks like it's going to be a full 2 hours, so I am sorry. But what about the word key? And that's a whole nother thing, and I'm going to hit that at the end because I love that you asked me that question. Can someone explain shoes? So I love I love these words. Shoes. Shoes is one that, you know what, I would stick that one in jail for sure, because although kids might, I've had a class actually that did play around with that because they saw the O and they were patterning out every other secret that an O was in. And one of the kids did come up with OO. And then they went, look, see, so we can figure it out because there's an O there. So if we just look for the secrets that has an O, that one has the O and it says ooh, and that's what the sound is that shoes make. To me, that leap is pretty arbitrary. I mean, that would be a leap of faith, kind of. It's interesting that it's true that, yes, there is that little tenuous connection there with the O, and then the O's in a secret, and then that particular secret does happen to be the word shoes. But that to me is a good example of, yes, it's fun to critically think about that, and then let's still stick that, in jail. Decode. This student's dyslexia loves the secrets, don't know how to decode shoes for her. Yeah, you can't decode every word. So, and especially, you can decode a lot of words, and the words you can't decode, you can make the best choices about by thinking out of the box. But the words that you just have to stick in jail, go ahead and stick in jail. Just be careful that you don't stick words in jail that can be decoded. And Tara Settle, I just will always forever be saying her name for that, because the words that I even had relegated to jail, like I said, was some, of, want, love. Here she comes and comes up with a kind of a doctor tool to just knock those out, because she saw the pattern that they all head to the sound. And then she came up with a perfectly logical behavior or reason as to why they would make that sound when they can't make up their mind. And that just knocked out, 9/10 of what I had in my jail, which was very little to start with. Okay, about 30, not sure exactly why. I don't know what that was responding to. My son had clue, blue for spelling words. He kept saying EU or EW, Zaru for EU. Yeah, that is on the UE. That is actually on the Tuvals Go Walkin'. So the Tuvals Go Walkin' person that does the talking, that's one of the ones that's on there. So that would kind of be like an example of a sound that's going to be similar to another secret, but because they're two totally different secrets with different behaviors, you wouldn't intentionally introduce them on purpose together because they're not related by behavior. But if they're on a spelling list, and like in this case, you didn't have the EU, EW sound on your spelling list, but if they were mixed together by words that all have a particular common sound, then absolutely give them the secrets for both that they need to remember how to read and spell each set. If you're coming at it from the ground up, if the secrets aren't connected in any way, then you don't need to use the sound as a basis to introduce, everything that has that sound. Okay, when I see the word through, I try the other secret silent GH with yeah. And that's kind of what I was saying is, you're working your way out with the word through. Same idea. There's the O. What other secrets is O in? Oh, it's in this one. It says ooh, through. We can read that word too. So it's just a matter of how many generations out you want to go. Kind of like doctors dealing with, diseases that are so hard to diagnose. That's a skill. There's doctors that do nothing but those really unusual cases, and they're often missed for years because there's so few doctors that handle things that are so against the norm or opposite of the normal pattern. So it's a fun game to play with your kids. Just make sure that you always keep your eye on the ball, that at the end of the day, it's about reading the word, writing the word. So if you go off on too big of a tangent with it, it can become the opposite of a sight word, which is a word that takes forever and a day to figure out instead of just fast. But it does make for a fun playing opportunity, thinking like a doctor opportunity. I don't have the program yet, but I've implemented what I've learned from YouTube videos. My kids are loving the Mama E and are using them in the writing. That's awesome. And I want to say one quick word to everybody that's using what's there so far. I put everything out that's free on purpose because I want you to get a taste for what it feels like to breathe underwater and where your kids can go when they have more to go with. But never stay stagnant, because the thing with the secrets, the biggest thing that you want to make happen is them looking for more secrets. The more secrets they know, the more secrets they need, because the more they can read and the more they can actually read and make sense of text, the more they're going to see letters that aren't doing what they should, and they want to and need to account for those sounds. And you don't want to turn that off or dissuade it. So if it appears that there's just these 5 little secrets and that's it, then kids don't think outside of the box to keep going with that pace. And aside from just compounding access to more so they can read more, it's a mindset even. Like, it's the things that are out there for free are absolutely out there for free for a reason. It's just that don't stop there. It's great that those little tricks have made your life easier with those little tricks and the kids' life easier with those little tricks. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. It all leads toward becoming a reader writer. And you really want them to be hungry to dive into text and to know that if they can't read something, there's a secret in it and you just need to tell me what it is. And if it looks like there's only 5 tricks that you have and that's all there are, then they just expect that everything else is just not supposed to make sense. So just be careful of that, in that, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I want those things out there so that teachers can see the difference in what their kids can actually do versus what they thought they could do. It's like a little magic pill that lets you breathe underwater for 30 minutes. And once you get used to breathing underwater and you see all the glorious things that are down there, then you want to get the pill to let you breathe underwater for life, I guess is what I'm saying. Because once you get down there and you see what's actually there to explore, that's where you want to stay. You want to stay down there. You don't want to just dive down for the 20 minutes at a time. And I think that can be a dangerous trap to fall into if you see the secrets that are out there for the free ones as just little tricks. Because they're not little tricks, it's the access to the entire code. Those are just the sprinkling to give you that shift of what they can do. But the goal of the game is to access the entire code. So definitely, maintain that momentum with where your kids are already running, because that's great that they are. But like if they know that Mommy E, babysitter Val's right there, you've already taught half of it. So give them the power to the next piece of it. And you can even get a lot more of them free still in the YouTube videos and in the blog. So even if you don't have the posters, you can still keep taking it farther, keep going farther with it. Just keep their eye on the ball that this isn't just a few tricks and then it stops. This is everything that makes you able to just power up that text. Okay. I've always kept my word jail very small. I thought you were just saying always kept your word. You've always kept your word jail very small. Good. This year's having a much harder time keeping my word jail small as we cover so much more. I'd be curious to know, Christy, what the words are that are in your word jail that are starting to clog it up, because it may be that you're being a picky warden about words that aren't doing what they should versus words that can be rehabilitated, words that are misdemeanors, words that we can handle, even though they're not maybe the shining example of what a word should be. We can handle them so we don't have to lock them up for life. So I'd be curious to know what those would be. Holly ordered the book and the posters. You won't regret it. It's the best thing ever about my classroom. I love hearing that. Thank you. Even though I toss it out, I hadn't thought of making sure to tell teachers to do that when I present PT. I will. Thanks, Kate. Yeah, no, I hadn't either. So join the club. I felt like a complete idiot when I thought I didn't tell Jen that, and I should have, because what she did made perfect sense that she would do that. And duh. So it was a real aha moment for me. Posters are essential, my kids. Yeah, they really are essential. I just always want teachers, if they don't have, $100 to buy whatever the kit is, to at least have as much verbally. So if they've used the free download posters that are there, and then to keep that ball rolling, at least if they have a verbal trick, they can keep the kids hungry for why and what, and they can go dig and find one or email me and ask me. It's still like night and day as far as the posters go, because the posters are what lets kids do it without you. You don't want to be the keeper of everybody's secrets. Not only will it drive you insane, but kids aren't going to come up and ask you every single time they need to read or write a word. They will glance up to look at poster though, to see what symbols they can put down to spell or what sound they need to read. So that's their tool set. The verbal stuff is yours. It's better than nothing. But you want to get them off of you and onto independent access. So, and I will show you this really quickly, by the way. I told you I'd do it last week. I didn't do it, and I got 3 emails asking me to do it. These are the different sizes. So for those of you that have asked me, I'm going to show you right now. These are the fun and funky posters. And they have the yellow border around them. These are the original posters. And you can see they are about 3/4 of the size. Well, no, not really. Minus like a couple inches on each end. The difference is these you can cut around the dead red space, which you can see there's a lot of dead red space. And you can put it on like a yellow piece of paper or a black piece of construction paper and mount it so that it's still smaller, because you're not going to put it on a square piece. You're kind of going to, you can do it in different ways. The book explains it, but it takes up a little less room than these. Some teachers have gotten really creative and they've cut these into shapes. Like this one, they've cut into mouse ears, like Mickey Mouse, which is really cute. And you can see some pictures of these. I'm going to do a whole blog post about them, but you can see it in a post called Posting Posters on the blog on secretstories.com. If you go to the blog, type into the search box, Posting Posters, and you will see as you scroll down lots of different posters, and you'll see some of the ones where they cut these into shapes. And also on my Instagram, The Secret Stories is the Instagram, and you can see how some different teachers cut these in different shapes. The next one is, these are the newer ones. They're called the decorative squares. And the decorative squares in relation to size, here's the original, so you can kind of see the difference in size. And here's the Fun and Funky. And then the last one are the Space Savers, but if you teach in K2, you're not allowed to put these on your walls. I'm kidding. You can if you want to, but don't put them on your walls because they're too small if they're on your walls. This is how big they are. This looks fine when it's just an O, but when it's like C-E-C-I-C-Y, G-E-G-I-G-Y, or ing-ang-ong-ong, all the ones that are smaller with more compacted skills, it's so hard for kids to see them. And if they can't see them, they won't use them in their independent reading and writing, which is the bulk of the day. So these are awesome for hands-on manipulative use. As a matter of fact, that's what they're for. But if you're in a resource room or you're in an upper grade classroom and you just have a cluster of kids that need to reference them, or you're in a smaller space, then you can use these actually on your wall. If you want to use them as a manipulative, you can buy them separately. And I would always recommend that because you can't take your secrets off the wall because those have to stay where they live. But it's nice to have something in hand if you want to show them all the sight words they can crack with this secret. Or if you want to bring the secret to the words or to the groups or use them for games, it's just handy to have manipulatives. And on that note, that's what these are. These are smaller manipulatives than you might want to put on your board for a purpose, but they're handy for games and they have the little stories on the back. You cannot just use these though, because kids can't read or write with them because they're going to be in a stack on your desk. And if you were to try to hang them up, they're way too small for kids to be able to see, especially, again, the ones that have multi-patterns on them, like 5 or 6, like the Two Vowels Go Walkin'. That's like microscopic on this. So these are for direct hands-on use, not for display, but they are handy when, you want a quick cheat sheet or you have a volunteer. And then finally, these are the Porta-Picks, and kind of like the smaller Space Savers. They're just handy if you're in a resource room or if you have kids that have to come and go a lot out of your classroom, or for home use. That was really what they were made for, is for home use, so that kids had the secrets that they could take home and use. And I am going to make myself stop now because you're supposed to teach all of them. Yep. Not teach all of them, just tell all the stories. I'm just going to tell all the stories. Teaching all of them would imply that kids have to give them back to you just as they were told them. And that's, they're not being taught. These are stories, but they will be using them all as they're reading, writing across the day. They'll use some less than others because some are only in bigger words, and a lot of those words may or may not be found, let's say, in the kindergarten year. So some secrets they won't get much use out of, so they may not come up. And if they don't come up, you may not teach it. But one year I didn't teach OUS because it just didn't come up. And I felt badly that I didn't teach OUS. Actually, I didn't think about it until it was done. And then I realized, I never taught that one because it hadn't come up. So I probably should have found a reason to toss it out just to make sure they had it before they left me, especially after seeing Melissa Gregory's video where she had them all done in like the first month. That really made me question why I was so slow. Okay, download a free secrets from TPT. Yeah, there are 4 cards included with a story. Very cute. I'm not sure what that's about, but that sounds like good advice. Okay, I raved about it. My administration literacy coach. Now I see that. That's okay. I see we adopted Lucy Calkins' reading and writing phonics. That's fine. Don't worry about that because that's actually, I kind of like that. The phonics workshop, Lucy Calkins, it still goes too slow because it takes 2 years. There's like a first grade version and a kindergarten version and a second grade version. So I would fast track it faster because it's storified. Now she tells you to have the kids make stories to explain the letters and sounds, but having done that, I can tell you it's not easy. And then when they make them, they have to have them up there. So, but I like the approach. And what I like is hers is a program. Mine is not a program. She gives you things you have to do or cut apart or make or say or be or have or read and that I don't, which is nice then because they can go together because since I'm not telling you what to do and how to do it, I'm just giving you what you need to do it. And then to use her her kind of little lessons and activities, especially for teachers who don't naturally come up with their own. I was one of those teachers that I just kind of would rather make up my own than have to do something else. But a lot of times teachers want to have something already there that is explained with a step 1 and a step 2 and a step 3. And I find that that's what hers is. And for that reason, a lot of teachers don't care for it. But I kind of think that pairs well with something that like the secrets, where these are secrets or tools to give kids what they need to start reading and writing words right now. And what she's giving you is a lot of good workshop opportunities for kids to do some reading and writing. So it's kind of like another playground that kids can play on. But again, don't wait for the introduction. If you have a way to make something make sense right now, and then they can start transferring that to reading and writing, why wait? Why would you wait? You're going to get so many opportunities to use that in, whether it's the phonics workshop with Lucy Calkins material or whether it's your Journeys reading program. They will give you ample opportunity to use far more skills than they have introduced yet. So use them and enjoy them, and then play on those playgrounds and really maximize what they have to offer, because there's some really good, rich literacy experiences there. And a lot of the districts that use Secret Stories use it with Reader, Writer, Phonics Workshop. A ton. As a matter of fact, aside from the Phonics Workshop piece, I don't think I've seen any. Of course, I wouldn't necessarily know, there would be, but it's one of the most likely pairings with the Readers and Writers Workshop model schools. The Secret Stories are plugged in there. So most of them didn't, from what I'm understanding, those that are in touch with me, the superintendents or the district folks, they didn't need to plug in the Phonics Workshop model to the Reading and the Writing Workshop model if they were already using Secrets, because kids already had the Phonics. But for the districts that got it anyway, and even though the principal said we didn't maybe need it, I saw it when I was there, and I liked some of the opportunities for exploration. It was just like another playground, like a mini playground that gave them different kinds of sliding boards and merry-go-rounds to fiddle with. So I didn't, there was no problem with it at all, other than just I wouldn't wait for the skill introduction to come through that, because it does have grade level years, and each year gets to introduce different parts of the code. And if you can give it all to them at the beginning, they can get a lot more out of it as a program. So, but that's I'm happy you brought that up. Okay, it took me the past 3 years of my school writing a grant for 6 sets in my district. Now in love with it. Hopefully they will see the benefit, the better alphabet. Yay, I'm happy to hear that, Melissa. I'm so happy. I'm sorry you had to write a whole grant to do that. In the Better Alphabet song, they have the long and the short vowel sounds they get introduced in the beginning. Yeah, I don't know. That was probably a question above. All the individual letters and sounds are tossed out. It takes 2 weeks to 2 months, and it's all through muscle memory. No secrets, no explanations, no stories, just muscle memory. So it's right there, tip of their tongue, first thing they say when they see the letter. And it covers everything a letter can do when it's by itself. So like for Y, it says E-N-I, but it doesn't talk about the E-Y-A-Y because that's not by itself. So everything a letter can do by itself, that song does. And they can lick their shoe, play with their carpet, and still have all the individual letters and sounds, because there's no processing at all. Not like with the secrets, there's no processing or retell. And therefore the acquisition's the same in pre-K as it is for kinder. Holly, I showed the YouTube video of Katie singing the alphabet song until I could buy the kit. Yeah, you don't have to buy the kit to sing that song. It's everywhere. You can find it easily. And you can also download, and I mentioned this, I'm going to do a post about it in a blog, but you can download the new handout from the workshops and the conference things that I've been doing at the Title I and at all the reading conferences that are coming up, because I'm going to be in South Carolina this week, and Boston and Texas, and just you can see on the schedule where I'm going to be, but you don't have to be at those conferences to get the giant packet handout. And that packet handout has links to a lot of these things we're talking about on the screen that it applies to. So the Better Alphabet song, there's a link right there to it. It takes you right there, and then it tells you everything that you might want to know about it. And you can jump back to that handout and scope out something else. And you can find that if you look at the workshops tab on the Secret Stories website, thesecretstories.com, look at the workshops tab, and one of the drop downs is session handout packet. And you can just download that and start playing. I love the Better Alphabet song, was doing my student teaching, used it, looked for it forever, didn't know at the time it was a Secret Story song. I'm glad to hear that you heard about it in your student teaching, Holly. That's awesome. Let's see, student-led conferences had my students sing the Better Alphabet song to parents. It was a success. Yeah, I had them tell the 3 stories to the parents. Yeah, that's a great way to get the parents involved. And Amy's working on giving us some information about her Valentine's Day and vowel hearts, which is another kind of cool trick that if you Google, you can find on YouTube or in the blog. And she's going to share some of the creative things she does with her parent involvement for getting them to know and getting them on board with how we use these strategies in the classroom and at home. Please explain the short, and I'm going to kind of skip. I see so many great questions and stuff, but I'm afraid because I don't want to make you I don't want to make you wait. So I'm so torn because there's so many good ones. I'll tell you what I will do. I am going to go ahead, I think, and wrap it, lest we'll be at Gone with the Wind level. But what I will do is I will make sure to address these in the next one that I do, which won't be now. But what I will do is I think I'll do a blog and I'll put a post together. If you are subscribed on the Secret Stories website, you'll be getting a blast. And in the next blast, I will address some of these questions that I didn't get to, and then try to pull, because I want to do this anyway, a blog post that has those in and others that I thought were really good from past blasts, which was kind of the topic of last week's session. So the little email blast will address these, but then the bulk of the ones that I've really kind of mined out as golden, really good questions and that were hit last week, I'm going to work those into and put it all into a big blog post. So I will do that. And if anything requires more than that, maybe it'll be a topic for one of these, which, like I said, aren't going to be regular, but I absolutely still plan on doing them. I'm just going to do them for specific pointed purposes so that I don't take like 2 hours like I did, tonight and go off in 1,000 directions. So anyway, thank you so much. And I'm going to tell you that the winner is, because today's date is February 10th. So what I'm going to do is what I did before. I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it is Carmen Bento. So Carmen Bento, you are the winner tonight of the Secret Stories kit. And if you already have the kit, then of whatever other supplemental piece you want. And I'll do one of these giveaways every single time I do one of these lives. So these will, as I do more, there will always be that. I will also, first thing, as soon as I get off of this, I will turn that Better Alphabet to free. And then I will go ahead and put the link into this description. And since it is already 7:09, so people that jumped off early are wondering like why I didn't post it. So they'll wonder, but I will go ahead and leave it open until 8 so that you have plenty of time to get it. And I want to thank you so much for those of you that have been coming every single time. You've helped me really coordinate my thoughts and learn so much as well. So there's going to be a blog dedicated just to you and all of your amazing questions and information. And the first one's going to be questions, but the second one is going to be the stuff that you've shared, the golden information and tidbits that I've seen kind of expressed through these chats. I'm going to get them all pulled out, and those will be the focus of my next couple blogs. And if you asked a question tonight and I didn't get to it, I promise that you will be in that blast. I might even put your first name in there. I won't put your last. So look for that as well. And it'll probably be called something like Any Questions? And it will be to make sure that I don't leave any of you hanging. So thank you so much. Let me know if you have any questions. You are welcome to leave any comments that you like in the video section below, especially if your question's pressing and you don't want to wait till the next blast. Just put it in the comment and I'll take the time and I have no problem answering that. Please like and subscribe, because I did remember that is important, and that's a whole nother story, because what it does is it actually lets me do some different things with the channel that will ultimately give me more flexibility to put links in and do things with the live and the chats afterward. So, but you have to have a certain number of hours. So like, subscribe, and that helps boost that algorithm so that we get a little bit more play when we do these ongoing. And I will see you all probably, it'll be within a month. We'll do another one of these. And in the meantime, hopefully I'll see y'all at a conference. So anybody from South Carolina out there, I'll be there in about 3 days, and Boston and Texas and so on and so forth after that. So until then, bye. And thank you so much again for joining. It was just awesome. Thank you.